Chapter 119. In fact, it had been 3 days since Zhang Jinyuan tricked the Taoist priest. In other words, the Taoist priest and Zhang Jinyuan had been fighting a battle of wits and courage for 3 days. 3 days. I feel like I've become a training partner. Zhang Jinyuan's methods are getting more and more skillful. I wanted to announce his scandals and sinister deeds to the public in a loud voice in the crowd. I didn't expect that those who were cheering were all his spies. When they realized that something was wrong with me, they pushed me aside. Next time, the villain complained first, saying that I was an evil person who wanted to take the money a second time after taking it, and that I was an evil person who blocked everyone's way of making money. I suffered a lot of disdain. When they found out that I was in disguise, they didn't wait for me to say anything. They directly came down and dragged me to the stage and gave me a bowl of stinky tofu mixed with feces. There were countless grievances and endless sorrow. When the Taoist priest reached the end of his story, his nose was covered in mucus and tears. It really made people feel endless compassion for him. As a result, Zhang Yinluo's gaze when he looked at Sun Lang was strengthened several times during this process. He had already upgraded from an instigator to the source of all evil. Zhang Jinyuan, who had thick eyebrows and big eyes, had actually changed from a rather straightforward big head of the embroidery hall to such a person in just a few days. Sun Lang glanced at her from the corner of his eyes. He was well aware of Zhang Yinluo's thoughts. In this regard, he just smiled proudly. Girl, sooner or later, you will also become like this. It had to be said that this guy's mentality was very good, and his acting skills were very good. He didn't feel that he was the culprit at all. He listened with great interest. I always feel that you become good friends who love and hate each other. Zhang Yinluo rolled her eyes, but she still asked curiously, "What's a good gay friend?" Sun Lang whispered, "Do you still remember that I told you about hand-to-hand friendship and mirror polishing? There are also corresponding terms to describe the deep friendship between men. Just like Zhang Jinyuan and this Taoist priest, they have become good friends who love and hate each other. The way they express and enhance their friendship is usually called." He thought for a while and nodded seriously. "Bayonet fighting, or should I say cockfighting." Zhang Yinluo didn't understand, but it didn't mean that she couldn't sense something from Sun Lang's expression and tone. She glared at Sun Lang, and then said to the Taoist priest with sympathy, "Zhang Jinyuan is not a good person." No, actually, although Zhang Jinyuan is an evil creature, everything has a cause and effect. I believe that he was definitely not like this at the beginning. The Taoist priest wiped the tears from the corner of his eyes and said with grief and indignation, "When I met him for the first time a few days ago, I saw his face. That guy's nature is not bad, but from his face, recently he was bewitched and deceived by evil people and wanted to do evil things. At that time, I even advised him to do good things, but I didn't expect that he would pull me into a pit. The real crazy person is not Zhang Jinyuan, but the person who tempted him to do such things." Speaking of this, he was filled with righteous indignation. "I've been thinking about it these few days. Zhang Jinyuan can be punished a little, and there is no need to investigate further. But the person who tempted him to go down the evil path must not be let go. I've never seen such a shameless person. I really want to take a look at that fellow's face and see exactly how filthy, sanctimonious, filthy, and scheming bastard he is." Sun Lang laughed eerily. Zhang Yinluo heard that the Taoist priest could not keep his mouth shut, and he felt bad. He glanced at Sun Lang, and his heart skipped a beat. He quickly said, "Taoist priest, is it not good to be alive? I mean, maybe this is just a misunderstanding. Maybe the person who advised Zhang Jinyuan did not expect things to develop like this. Or maybe that person just did it unintentionally." The Taoist priest waved his hand. "Miss, there is no need to say more. I am a monk, but I have to be fair. This matter isn't as simple as you think." Through this poor Taoist observations over the past few days, that person seemed to have casually given Zhang Jinyuan some advice and turned a good person into this. If he gets serious, there won't be any peace in this world. No, I can't let this go. For the people, for the prosperity of the world, I must ask Zhang Jinyuan about that person's whereabouts." Sun Lang smiled and said, I admire your noble character and unquestionable integrity. But there is one thing I don't understand. After you find that person, what are you going to do with him?" The Taoist priest glared at him and said, "I have suffered so much these days, and it is all because of him. When I catch him, I will beat him up first." I see. Sun Lang smiled and nodded. "And then? You are such a temperamental person. How can you feel at ease just by beating him up, right?" "Of course," the Taoist priest said proudly. "How can a simple beating make me feel better? How can I show off my monk's means? After beating him up, I will feed him." We seem to have gone off topic. At this time, Zhang Yinluo finally couldn't stand it anymore. She couldn't bear to see the Taoist priest continue on the road of seeking death quickly and happily, so she began to forcibly change the topic. "Well, we want to talk about Zhuing at first, right?" "Oh no, we cannot talk about Zhuing first. After being reminded by her, the Taoist priest also came to his senses and said with an apologetic face, I'm sorry. I'll let you two hear such useless words. This matter has nothing to do with you two. Let's talk about the little flower demon again." No. Sun Lang smiled and pulled Zhang Yinluo aside and said sincerely, "Taoist priest, come on, I will explain things to you and then give you a proposal. What do you think?" He sat on the stool, counted with his fingers, and said, "In fact, this matter is originally two things. The first thing is that you are here to subdue the demon, and you want to take Zhuing away. But Zhu Ying is our companion, and we are reluctant to let her go, which constitutes a conflict between us. But we are all reasonable and decent people, and we want to find a peaceful solution without conflict. What do you think?" The Taoist priest didn't know that he was going to die. He nodded and said, "You are a reasonable and understanding person, much better than Zhang Jianyuan." Sun Lang nodded seriously, and then said, "The second thing is that you have been treated unfairly recently, and you want to vent your anger. And out of the righteousness of a monk, you want to find out the culprit who persuaded Zhang Jianyuan. But the key problem is that you are a monk, and you're not very good at this field. Not to mention the culprit behind this. You may not even be able to fight with Zhang Jianyuan." The Taoist priest seemed to have noticed something and said thoughtfully, "You mean we are paladins?" Sun Lang grinned and said, "We have professional skills and a conscientious attitude, and we specialize in solving problems for our employers. You can't find the culprit behind the scenes, but we can. You see, you want to find the culprit behind the scenes, so you need help, and we are paladins, so you can hire us. In other words, we are reluctant to let Zhuing go, so we want you, an expert, to give us some advice and other solutions. This is what we need from you. You see, we need each other's help, and we can realize the connection between the two sides." He slapped his thigh and said, "You see, isn't this the legendary closed loop of O2O? What is that?" The Taoist priest was stunned by his words. "Can you really help me find it?" Sun Lang said seriously, "I can definitely find it. I am not lying. If you don't believe me, you can look at my righteous eyes and handsome face." Chapter 120. If the Taoist priest's central nervous system was stronger, he might be able to resist the dizziness and nausea in his brain and see Sun Lang's true face a little more clearly. Unfortunately, his body was not strong enough. When he saw Sun Lang's ever-changing and complicated face, he felt dizzy and nauseous. Then, he lost the most direct and effective method and opportunity to discover Sun Lang's true face. Whether it was a blessing or a curse, it was still unknown. But in the eyes of Miss Zhang Yinluo, the fate of the Taoist priest had been closely linked with some indescribable substance. After all, Sun Lang's gloomy smile, this guy's bad taste, and extremely narrow-minded vengeful thoughts, and indicated that this guy was about to take some inharmonious actions. And just now, he had innocently lured the poor Taoist priest into his trap. Zhang Yinluo took a deep breath. As a kind and upright girl, she decided to do her best to let the poor Taoist priest, although he was a little talkative, stay away from someone's torment. So the girl first smiled at the Taoist priest. "Taoist priest, please wait for a moment. I'll go out and discuss with this guy about the specific matters. Really, he didn't even discuss with me in advance. And he made this kind of decision. Sun Lang made a face and said, "What's there to discuss? The Taoist priest is so pitiful. Isn't it good to seek justice for him? Don't tell me you want to add more money. Also, what do you mean by this guy?" Miss Zhang was choked and rolled her eyes. She sighed and suddenly showed a charming smile. She said softly, "Manager?" The ranger blinked his eyes and suddenly nodded to the Taoist priest with a serious face. "Then please wait for a moment. Although democracy and discussion will reduce work efficiency, this reflects the respect for human rights and freedom. It also helps to increase the company's staff sense of belonging and family harmony. So we'll go out for a while. Taoist priest, you take a rest and wait for a while." Then, without any explanation, he grabbed Zhang Yinluo's hand and winked at him. "Let's go, you little minx." After leaving the room and closing the door, Zhang Yinluo shook off Sun Lang's hand as if he had been electrocuted. With a look of disgust, he said, "You were so disgusting just now." Sun Lang pretended to be sad and said, "You call me shopkeeper in front of others, but behind others, you become this guy. Yinluo, can't you be a little more consistent with your appearance? Cut the crap." Zhang Yinluo rolled his eyes. "What are you going to do?" Sun Lang's eyes flashed with gentleness as he said softly, "Of course, it's to find a way to make everyone happy." Zhang Yinluo put his hand on his satchel and said, "Speak human language." The ranger spread out his hands and said, "As you can see, the Taoist priest wants to take Zhuing away. I don't know what you think, but I can't bear to let that little minx go, and Dongfang Xian can't bear to let her go either. It can be seen that their relationship is getting better and better these days, and Dongfang Xian also cherishes this new friend very much. It seems that this is the first time she has made such a good friend." Zhang Yinluo rolled his eyes and said, "What does this have to do with what you just did? Just because this Taoist priest said bad things about you without knowing it, you're going to bring him into the pit? You also lied to him that you would find a mastermind behind the scenes for him." "When did I lie to him?" Sun Lang said innocently. "I said that I would definitely help him find a mastermind behind the scenes. Have I ever told a lie?" Zhang Yinluo was tongue-tied and speechless. After a moment of silence, he said, "So, you plan to bring him into the pit, who doesn't know what's going on, while secretly causing trouble for him. You pretend to help and encourage him on the surface, making him trust you more and more, making him believe that you are a good person more and more. Finally, when he has been tricked to the point that he is crying for his parents, despairing of the world, and feeling that there is no good person in the world except for you, you will tell him gently that you are the mastermind behind everything." Sun Lang gasped and said, "Yinluo, in just a few days I didn't expect you to become so promising. Such a vicious trick, such a trick, even I can't think of it. Don't play this trick on me." Zhang Yinluo glared at him and said, "Zhu Ying will definitely be helped, but you can't be so evil. Don't hurt others casually." The paladin curled his lips and said, "What should I do? Tell him directly that I am the mastermind behind the scenes who guided Zhang Jianyuan to the road of capitalism? You also know how angry he is and how much he wants to hang me up and beat me. However, first, I can fight better than him. Second, I won't let him beat me. So if he wants to do it, I will definitely beat him up. Do you think that in this case, he can still calmly discuss with us about Zhuing? He will definitely arrest him violently. But the problem is he still can't beat me." Sun Lang shook his head and said, "That will lead to two results. First, I will kill him on the spot, but this is murder. You will definitely not agree. Second, I will beat him up and drive him away. He will be angry and will definitely complain to his sect and ask for help. That will inevitably lead to two results. First, we can't beat the help of his sect. Not only will we be taught a lesson, but we will also not be able to protect Zhuing. Second, we will beat all the people in his sect, and this will still lead to two results. First, we will kill them all. Second, they will go to ask for help again." He sighed and said, "So, do you understand? In the end, there will only be two results. First, we will destroy the whole world. Second, we will be crushed by the whole world and still not be able to protect Zhuing. The ranger patted the dumbfounded Zhang Luo and said, "Look, look, because of your impulsiveness and superficial righteousness, the entire world will be plunged into the flames of war. No matter who wins or loses, there will be no final victor. On the other hand, if you hide the truth from that Taoist priest and make him suffer a little, this world will be free from conflict and war. It's clear what to choose. Isn't it wonderful to have peace and prosperity?" Hey, hey. There seems to be something wrong, Zhang Luo cried. "Your reasoning seems to be very organized, but I always feel that something is wrong. Why would I want to save an innocent Taoist from your narrow-mindedness and vindictiveness lead to the end of the world falling into war?" Sun Lang snorted. "That's because you're too young. You have to know that the flap of a butterfly's wings in Mingzhou City may cause a superstorm to occur somewhere thousands of miles away. This is called the butterfly effect. Do you understand the butterfly effect?" Seeing that Zhang Luo was confused, the paladin showed a gentle smile and said, "Do you feel that you don't understand? It doesn't matter. I am here. I'm here for everything. If you don't understand, don't think about it. Just listen to me." Zhang Luo said seriously, "You wish. I can't argue with you, but I will always be by your side to supervise you. If I find that you are just teasing that Taoist out of vindictiveness, I will definitely stop you." But the next moment, she shook her head and sighed softly. "But my emotions tell me that you're taking advantage of the chaos to fool around, but my rationality tells me that perhaps you have your own motives. You don't want to tell me, and perhaps you have your reasons. I won't ask. Just like how I'm curious about your past and the mysteries behind it, I won't ask. Everyone has their own secrets." She glanced at Sun Lang and calmly said, "We have only known each other for a short period of time and have only recently become partners. Everything needs to be adjusted, and trust and friendship needs time to be established and consolidated. Before that, it is understandable to keep things and conceal things. I will not force the current you to be completely unreserved with me. You can hide your purpose and plan some things, and I can tolerate all of that. I can even be played around by you, but that is only for now. I hope that one day you will be able to openly speak of your plans and strategies and discuss and make decisions with me. I hope that I can be strong to that extent, strong enough that you can entrust me without any reservations." Sun Lang blinked and said, "What are you doing? Why are you suddenly so serious?" He smiled and said, "And it doesn't matter if you are fooled by me. Luo, are you a masochist? Or should I say, has my masculine charm become so strong that it makes you so? That's because even though we've only known each other for a short period of time, we've experienced unforgettable things together. At that time, I had even lost confidence in myself. However, from start to finish, you've never disappointed me." Zhang Luo smiled and said, "So, in order to repay you at that time, and to continue the trust at that time, I am willing to continue to trust you now. Whether it is about the Taoist or Zhu Ying, I believe that you will solve the problem satisfactorily, just like how you solved the problem of the magic device, even if the process is more unacceptable." She took 2 steps forward and reached out to brush the dandruff on Sun Lang's collar. She chuckled and said, "I still trust you now, so don't mess things up. Otherwise, you know the consequences." Sun Lang was silent for a moment and reached out to flick Zhang Luo's forehead. "Idiot, even I don't trust myself. You'd better be more careful." After that, he turned and walked through the corridor and pushed open the door of the Taoist priest's room. A hearty laughter sounded from the room. "Taoist priest, let's talk about the specific business." "Ah, yes, I haven't asked your Buddhist name." Looking at the back of Sun Lang, who left in a hurry, Zhang Luo blinked. Her intuition told her that she seemed to have inadvertently found a special weapon to use against Sun Lang. If she could master it, maybe she would have an overwhelming advantage in the communication with someone in the future. However, she was a little stupid. Chapter 121. Taoist name. Basically, it was the ID of every Taoist who practiced Taoism. This ID was very unique. Some could show the time of registration. Some could show the user's group level. Some could show the registration location. Some even sounded cool. However, for some reason, when Sun Lang asked about the Taoist priest's ID, this Taoist priest who liked to talk nonsense and could even casually mention that he almost ate sh*t actually showed a subtle expression. It was as if he had something he could not say. However, everyone knew Sun Lang. Usually, the more people did not want to say something, the more he wanted to know. Moreover, this Taoist priest had unintentionally offended him. Therefore, he asked gently, "Taoist priest, do you have any difficulties? Do you want to keep your identity a secret?" "That's not it." The Taoist priest said, "Honestly, my Taoist name is nothing much. You also know that fate makes fools of people. In this world, whether it's Buddhism or Taoism, there are certain rules and regulations when choosing Taoist names and Taoist names." Just like this Taoist priest knew a Buddhist senior brother who was in the wisdom generation. When he entered the sect, the master disliked him for being stubborn and hoped that he could see through the obstacles and see the truth. Therefore, he gave him the Taoist name, retard. That's why fate is very important. Don't be afraid of being born into the wrong body, but be afraid of being called the wrong name. Just like that retard senior brother, he did not leave the temple for many years. Even if he had to go down the mountain, he would hide from people. It's not that he couldn't, it's just that he didn't want to. He muttered, "There's a famous master of the Yuan generation. You must have heard of his name. His Taoist name is Yuan Tong. It's catchy and grand. He swore to enter the mortal world to cultivate. With the body of a monk, he established Yuan Tong Escort Agency all over the world. He wanted to exchange what the world needs and deliver letters to the people." Sun Lang smiled and said, "Could it be that Taoist priest Dharma name also has such a hidden secret?" "That's not it." The Taoist priest's expression changed several times before he finally sighed. "Fine, since you've treated me with sincerity, I can't hide anything from you. My sect is now ranked according to the black cloud passage's tranquility, white crane's view's clarity. I'm a disciple of the Bai generation. When I entered the sect, it was winter and the mountain was sealed by heavy snow. When my master was watching the snow, I said something that annoyed him, so he gave me a Taoist name." He sighed again. "Her name is Bai Shui. Learning for nothing." Sun Lang sucked in a breath of cold air. "So that's how it is. No wonder you get beaten up so easily. It's because you got the wrong name. Bai Shui." Zhang Yinluo blinked and burst into laughter. "This Taoist name is quite cute, I say." The Taoist priest sighed. "Why are your reactions so different? It's just a small matter. Don't worry about it." Sun Lang smiled and patted Bai Shui's, Taoist Bai Shui's shoulder. "But Bai Shui, Baidu is better than that. Senior brother Baidu entered the sect a few years earlier than me. He's very knowledgeable and said that he knows everything about astronomy, geography, medicine, divination, and astrology. Actually, I think he's just rote memorizing and only knows how to read things out from books." Taoist Bai Shui counted with his fingers. "It's not just this Taoist name. I entered the sect too late, and all the good names were given to me by the dog. No, senior brother who came before me. White stone, white cloud, white wood. Even cabbage is called by some people." He sighed and said, "So, I still have to call myself Bai Shui at this age." It's, Sun Lang said with a subtle expression. "Taoist priest, at least you didn't encounter Bai Shui and Bai Dai." He put on a sincere expression and said patiently, "Look, the most important thing as a person is to be happy. Putting the name Snow White on a man, although it sounds sissy, disgusting, funny, trash, stupid, and funny, at least it sounds better than white tie and white turbid." Taoist Bai Shui listened to these comforting words and felt that something was wrong. He blinked and sighed, "But no one calls me by these two Taoist names. My Taoist name is ranked in the top 3 in terms of shame in the sect. Taoist priest, you're too obsessed." Sun Lang smiled and said, "You don't have it now, but it doesn't mean you won't have it in the future. You've been traveling around the world for the past 2 days. Did you find any good seedlings? Write a letter of recommendation back to the sect and do a little work. For example, Master, this man will be a great man in the future, but he is too stubborn. You should know that when the water is too clear, there will be no fish. If the water is too clear, there will be no fish. Proper turbidity is in line with the Taoist way of inaction and modesty. So it's better to call him by joie. You see, if you write more sincerely and affectionately, your master may call him by joie if he is happy. He patted Taoist by Shui's shoulder and said with a smile, "You see, there are a few new junior brothers who have these names. Won't you be free? No one will laugh at you then, right?" Taoist by Shui blinked and thought for a moment. He said happily, That's right, that's right. Even if they're junior brothers, after they enter the sect, they will definitely complain that I'm too straightforward and want to beat me. In that case, I'd better make the first move." Zhang Yinluo listened to them with a subtle expression. In just a short time, Sun Lang had begun to lure the innocent Taoist priest into the abyss of evil. She shook her head and said helplessly, "Taoist by Shui. Compared to this, let's talk about Zhuing first. As you can see, if it's possible, we don't want her to leave. May I ask if there's any way we can compromise?" Taoist by Shui looked embarrassed and said, "Miss, I think I've made it clear before. I want to take this flower monster away. It's not that I don't care about her feelings or the reason. It's really for her own good. Moreover, if this flower monster attracts her own kind, those real demons will take her away. It's really not a joke." Sun Lang frowned. "What's wrong? Are those fiendish demons planning to go on a killing spree?" "That's not very likely. The Empire has just won the Tianyuan War, and its military achievements are splendid. It's only been 2 years since the war ended, and the country still maintains a strong standing army. Even if the demons have eaten the leopard's gall, they won't dare to make trouble at this time. What they should do now is hibernate, accumulate strength, and then wait for the right time." He looked at the two people and said sincerely, "So they won't fight and kill on a large scale. Besides, Mingzhou is an important town in the north, and there are quite a lot of masters guarding it. They won't allow them to mess around. However, if the demons want to take away the flower monster, they will inevitably have a conflict with you. You can't run away." The paladin nodded and said, "How's your way of subduing demons?" Taoist by Shui mentioned his job and said proudly, "I'm not bragging, but my way of subduing demons is enough to rank in the top 3 in my sect." Zhang Yinluo curled his lips slightly. This Taoist by Shui might be good at fortune-telling, but judging from the fact that he was played by Zhang Jinyuan, this Taoist by Shui was already in the ranks of the 5 weaklings. However, Sun Lang didn't seem to think so. He clapped his hands and said, "Isn't it settled? Taoist by Shui, you're so resourceful and powerful. With your help, even if the demons really come, they won't be able to return." Taoist by Shui was stunned and asked, "Huh? What do you mean? Why do I have a feeling that I've been forcefully bought for no reason?" Chapter 122. It was nighttime in Mingzhou. A bright moon hung in the sky, shining on the tiles on the roof of the immortal fishing house. Sun Lang stood on the roof and looked at the city of Mingzhou hidden in the night. The city was brightly lit and dotted with stars. He suddenly felt like reciting a poem and recited, "Brothers are like hands and feet, women are like clothes, bah." A dissatisfied snort came from below. Obviously, this sexist remark made Ms. Zhang Yinluo extremely unhappy. Male chauvinist. The ranger smiled proudly and stretched out his arms as if he were embracing the city and listening to the voices of the thousands of families. Then he recited, "The moon in Mingzhou, the sound of thousands of families pounding their clothes." After reciting, he turned his head and said with a smile, "Yinluo, what do you think of my use of the word pounding? You scoundrel." Zhang Yinluo climbed up from the window on the 3rd floor with a face full of shame and anger. "What's in your head?" Sun Lang laughed and sat down on the tiles on the roof. He lay down and said, "What a beautiful scenery. Do you know? Long ago, I used to yearn for martial arts. It's a child's dream. At that time, what I wanted to learn the most was lightness skills. I could fly up and down, jump on roofs, and vault over walls, whether it was on trees, mountains, water, or rooftops. I could fly wherever I wanted. I could show off however I wanted. Long ago." Zhang Yinluo's expression changed. She was very curious about Sun Lang's past. "And then? You didn't want to learn it again?" The ranger blinked solemnly. "Then I grew up a little. Compared to lightness skills, I wanted to learn acupoint, sealing more. I went from peeping on roofs and vaulting over walls to brazenly entering a room to molest people. Zhang Yinluo was a little used to his crazy talk. She squinted at him and said, "What's wrong with you now? What kind of evil martial arts did you practice?" Sun Lang looked confused. Then he gasped and said in surprise, "I didn't expect you to be this kind of heroine. What are you thinking?" "That's enough." Female hero Zhang's face turned red and her heart raced. She angrily said, "Then why do you want to learn acupoint sealing?" The Rangers said softly, "Because I don't plan to hurt anyone. I don't want others to hurt others, and I don't want to hurt anyone either. So I want to learn acupoint sealing. Even if I encounter a bad person, I can freeze him." However, Zhang Yinluo's gaze was filled with the words bullsh *t. "So it's just a child's dream. There's always a time when you wake up from a dream. And when you wake up, what you see may be worse than a nightmare." Sun Lang smiled. "When I was young, I had a dream of becoming a martial artist. When I was young, I wanted to become a martial artist. But when I grew up, my dream suddenly had a chance to come true. I've become extremely disgusted with it." "When you grew up?" Zhang Yinluo was surprised. "When did you start practicing martial arts?" Sun Lang counted with his fingers. "Year after year, year after year." About 8 years ago." "How is that possible?" The girl looked at Sun Lang, her eyes full of surprise. "You only learned martial arts for 8 years? How is that possible?" The ranger spread out his hands and said, "No. In theory, it only took me 3 years to learn martial arts. The remaining 3 years were to apply what I learned. The last 2 years were wasted time." Bullsh *t. Zhang Yinluo's face was full of disbelief. "Although I don't know how high your martial arts are, it's definitely better than mine. Do you know when I started practicing martial arts? My talent is not bad, and my master is also very good. I thought I worked hard until today to have my current achievements." I know. You're right. Practicing martial arts relies on the support of resources. Martial artists who use good medicine every day to soothe their body and strengthen their foundation will have higher achievements than children from poor families. Practicing martial arts also relies on the guidance of famous teachers. The top martial arts of famous sects are more efficient and powerful than ordinary internal energy. And the masters of the various sects are definitely better at teaching their disciples than the teachers of the martial arts centers. Sun Lang smiled and said calmly, "But other than famous teachers and financial resources, the most important thing in martial arts is one's talent and indomitable tenacity. I started practicing martial arts too late, and my talent is not very good. Also, because I lived in a comfortable environment, my tenacity and ruthlessness are even worse. I can't bear hardships, and the slightest setback will cause me to give up halfway. When I was young, I talked about wanting to be a hero, but if I really started practicing martial arts, I'm afraid I won't be able to persevere. It's the first time I've seen you so honest." Zhang Yinluo squinted and said, "Then how did you practice martial arts?" "I've already said that the two most important qualities of a martial artist are talent and tenacity. I don't have both. If you want me to practice hard to become a strong martial artist, I probably won't be able to do it. But the world is unpredictable, and fate makes fools of people." Sun Lang smiled and said, "There's a group of people with great magical powers who want me to become a strong martial artist in the shortest time possible. This is extremely absurd and does not conform to common sense. But the key is that this group of people with great magical powers have the most firm determination, the most sufficient reason, and the most abundant resources. Oh, right, they also have the world's most qualified, most efficient, and most experienced teacher. So, enough to make the world's hardworking martial artists vomit 3 liters of blood. The absurd story has become a reality." Sun Lang spread out his hands and said, "Am I very lucky? I actually used a short 3 years to achieve what others can't achieve in their lifetime. It's really terrifying. Thinking back, I admire myself. Ha ha ha. Are you very envious and jealous?" His tone was very sarcastic, but did not arouse Zhang Yinluo's dissatisfaction and anger. She fell into silence, and after a long time, she said, "Master told me, in this world, there's only martial arts. There is no shortcut. Your master is a sensible person." Sun Lang was stunned for a moment, and then nodded with a smile. "Yes, there is no shortcut. So does it hurt?" Sun Lang also fell silent, and then smiled slightly. "Can you still describe the pain you suffered when you were 10 years old when you fell to the ground while walking on the plum blossom piles? After so long, now that I think about it, it doesn't hurt too much." Zhang Yinluo nodded silently, but she did not know that the ranger still had a sentence that he did not say. "But you should still remember Master's scolding 2 years ago. Remember the injury you received while practicing martial arts 3 years ago. The pain of falling to the ground from the plum blossom piles is not considered unforgettable, so it will not be remembered. Only true pain will always be remembered in the heart. Remember that year, remember everyone's faces, remember that period of time. Although you say you have forgotten, although you intend to avoid it, it is still sealed in the depths of your heart. You can't let it go, you can't forget, and you can't forgive. Every time you think about it, you will silently count your fingers in your heart, counting the days left, waiting for the day you can take revenge. 1 year. There is actually still a full year's time. You have cheated me so miserably, but since you're already dead, I won't lower myself to your level. I will keep my promise to you. I promised to wait for 3 years, so I won't just wait for 2 years, 364 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes, 59 seconds. I also won't wait for 3 years and 1 second. Only this time, I won't be by your side, shoulder to shoulder." Thinking of this, Sun Lang mysteriously turned his head. Zhang Yinluo blinked, somewhat stupefied. "What's the matter? As you can see, this is a retard like you. One-track-minded, straightforward, and muddle-headed. But her chest is really big." Sun Lang laughed. "What do you mean, what's the matter? I was reciting poetry on the rooftop, and you ran up here. Don't tell me you want to take liberties with me? If you have something to say, say it." Zhang Yinluo was stunned for a moment, and then suddenly jumped up. "That's right. I actually forgot. I came up here to find you for proper business." Why did the topic suddenly change? Chapter 123. So, Zhang Yinluo squatted next to Sun Lang and stared at his cheek. "What are you up to? How do you plan to use Taoist by Shui? How do you want to deal with Zhuing? You haven't told him about it yet, have you? What are you talking about? What do you mean by use?" Sun Lang squinted and said, "This is O2O closed loop, an advanced business concept, whatever you say. But what's your purpose of keeping Taoist by Shui here?" Zhang Yinluo reached out and pressed Sun Lang's shoulder, staring at him seriously. "You don't want to use Zhu Ying as bait and then lure the demon who wants to take Zhuing away, do you? You asked Taoist by Shui before whether the demon would kill ordinary people, and you also asked Taoist by Shui about his ability to subdue demons." Sun Lang blinked and said in surprise, "Your imagination is getting more and more strange. Why would I do that? If I could even guess this, wouldn't I be as perverted as you? Who knows what you want to do? Maybe you want to scare me. Maybe you just want to broaden your horizons. Maybe you just want to have fun, or you want to feed the real demon." Zhang Yinluo sighed. "It's just intuition. You don't really want to do this, do you?" She moved her feet and came to Sun Lang. She pressed her hands on his shoulders and said seriously, "If you want to do this, can you stop? This is very dangerous. Not only for you and me, but also for Zhu Ying and Dongfang Xian. I don't want you to put your companions who don't know the truth in danger because of personal reasons. If you have a reason to do this, then I hope you can tell us the reason and purpose, and we will help you." Sun Lang looked at her quietly. Suddenly, he raised his hand. With a pada sound, he delivered a chop to her head. Zhang Yinluo was hit and sat on the roof. He covered his head and shouted, "What are you doing? There are 2 reasons why I hit you. I'll tell you the first reason later." Sun Lang raised his finger and said, "The second reason is purely because of your IQ. Come on, let me ask you. Zhu Ying, a chrysanthemum spirit, an insignificant flower demon, has no powerful skills, no superb combat power, and his ability to move is limited because his body can't move. What are the chances that such a small monster will attract the attention of his own kind? He rolled his eyes. And I want to use Zhu Ying as bait to lure out the demons? Asaba, do you think this is fishing? Do you think that just by pinching a small piece of bait, a school of fish will rush to take the bait? I don't even know if there will be demons who will notice this newly awakened little flower spirit in such a serious situation. Will they use Zhu Ying to catch demons? I don't know how long we'll have to wait. Zhang Yinluo thought about it for a moment. It seemed to make sense. She couldn't help but scratch her head. Then why did you leave White Snow behind? First, just in case, he should stay as insurance. Second, although he seems to be easy to talk to, it's hard for such a person to change his mind once he has made up his mind. Without a result of Zhu Ying's matter, he will not give up. So I let him stay and delay for a while. When the time comes, there will naturally be a solution. Sun Lang glanced at Zhang Yinluo, who was confused, and said with a smile, in fact, to be honest, if I found this little flower spirit by myself, I might really tie her to my side as bait to see if I can catch any big fish as a leisure activity. But this matter involves Dongfang Xian, so I can't do that. She is the sister of an old friend of mine, so she's my sister. How can I put her in danger? Oh, Zhang Yinluo was surprised. I haven't heard of it yet, because she doesn't want to talk about her family and life. When she was a child who lacked love and care, she just had a quarrel with her relatives. As long as she goes through some things, she will grow up. There's no need to worry about that. Sun Lang smiled. So I left Zhu Ying behind and asked Dongfang Xian to take care of and educate her. She just lacks a partner and a good friend. I hope she can grow from it. She may only be able to stay here for a short period of time. Chao Patao will not let her run around outside. At most, in a month or two, he will definitely find her. At that time, Dongfang Xian may have to go home obediently, but she can take Zhu Ying with her. This is the reason I used to deal with White Snow. Sun Lang spread out his hands and said, with Chao Patao's ability, it's naturally not a problem to shelter a little monster. If White Snow still has any objections, you can quarrel with Chao Patao. Wait. Zhang Yinluo wondered, who is Chao Patao? A rustic guy with no taste. Sun Lang smiled. When the time comes, I'll introduce you to him. You'll be very happy. Now, I'm going down. Those two crazy girls are back. And Sun Lang stood on the edge of the roof and waved his hand without looking back. The first reason I just beat you. You heartless girl. How can I put you in danger? Next time you doubt me like this, I'll spank you. Zhang Yinluo was stunned. After a while, the girl touched her head and looked confused. Huh, when? Now, the person outside the house replied, Mingzhou City. But why us? The person inside the house opened the envelope in his hand, glanced at it, and sneered. Her subordinates have withered to this extent. She needs us to take action because her subordinates screwed up the whole thing. The incident of the demonic equipment seemed to have been accidentally exposed by a veteran of the Heaven's Origin sector who retired in Mingzhou, which caused quite a stir in the court of human beings. On one hand, she needs to find out how much of the secret has been leaked, and on the other hand, she wants to protect herself. Therefore, it is impossible for her to send her subordinates to do anything big. So, she wants us to investigate the whole thing. The person outside the house explained, therefore, the superiors are sending you there. Your abilities are perfect for the job. I don't think they need to assign a deputy for you. That's not necessary. The person in the room, or rather, the monster, rubbed his hands together, and the letter in his hand spontaneously combusted, turning into ashes. He raised his head, revealing a pair of demonic purple eyes. His appearance was handsome and dashing, and his figure was tall. He looked just like a beautiful human man, but his strange colored eyes and the demonic aura that was different from that of a human's betrayed his identity. He was a monster. He smiled. I'm good at acting on my own. My deputies are just hindrances for me. Don't underestimate the enemy. Don't be careless. Most importantly, the messenger outside the house emphasized, don't cause any trouble. Right now, we need to accumulate strength and wait for the right time. What are you worried about exactly? The purple-eyed monster pushed the door open. He warmed up his body and said indifferently and calmly, I'll cause trouble? No, I'm calmer than most of you. Anger is the most boring emotion. It makes people impulsive. It makes people irritable. It makes people make wrong judgments. It makes people do stupid things. And I'm luckier, because the person in this world who can make me angry is already dead. Chapter 124. That year, when he entered the sect, the snow had sealed off the mountain, and the entire mountain was covered in snow. That day, his master stood with his hands behind his back. He stood on the tall balcony and looked at the snow-covered mountain and the bright candles in the southern sky. He was like a silent and tall statue. At that moment, he felt that his master was an idiot. Aren't you cold? Aren't you tired? Aren't you bored? I'm cold. I'm tired. I'm bored. But at that time, his mouth wasn't big enough. He didn't dare to say it, so he held back the words in his heart. But the next moment, his master asked him softly. His tone was filled with melancholy and indifference. Disciple, do you know why snow is white? At first, he was stunned. Then, he began to think about the answer. He felt that this wasn't a simple question. There must be a deeper meaning to it, but soon he understood. Master didn't want to test him. Master just wanted to show off. Because after Master asked the question, he gave the answer on his own. Master said that it was because snow had forgotten its former color. He blinked his eyes. Master, you're wrong. Although I don't study much, I'm not stupid. You can't fool me. So, he couldn't take it anymore. He said directly, Master, from the perspective of knowledge, I once pulled the snow apart and found that the snow was formed by small ice crystals. Those small ice crystals weren't white, but when they were gathered together, they were white snow. When I was young, I once broke a mirror. The powder that was broken into pieces gathered together was also white. So, I think that the reason why snow is white might be because light is refracted back and forth in these small ice crystals. And for the perspective of romanticism, I think that snow hasn't forgotten its former color because it is white. If it has forgotten its former color, then it should be colorless. According to what you said, the things that have forgotten their former color are ice, water, air, and so on. Master, see if I'm right. Then Master smiled gently. He reached out his hand and touched his head. Child, from today onwards, your Taoist name will be Snow White. He bluntly said, F***, Master, you can't be like this. Although I seem to have put you on the spot just now, you can't be so narrow-minded. That year, when he entered the sect, the snow had sealed off the mountain. The mountains and plains were covered in snow. That day, his master stood with his hands clasped behind his back, standing on a tall building. Behind him, the mountains were covered in snow, and the candles in the southern sky were bright. He was like a silent and tall statue. At that moment, it was the first time he was beaten after he entered the sect. Master's big foot kicked him in the butt. It was as if he was using his chrysanthemum as a jet to fly. Why am I suddenly involved? Zhuing pointed at himself with a puzzled face. And what does jet flight mean? It's just a detail. Don't worry about it. Sun Lang waved his hand. So, do you understand? Dongfang Xin raised his hand and said, that is to say, an old cow's nose is such a disgusting Taoist name as Bai Shui. Such a pervert has his eyes on my Zhu Ying and wants to take her away from me. Take her to an uninhabited deep mountain forest, teach her some strange knowledge, and do some strange things to her? Hey, you misunderstood. Zhang Yinluo elbowed Sun Lang next to him and said angrily, You're talking bad about Taoist priest behind his back again. Sun Lang glanced at her sideways. This is not bad. This is called appropriate artistic processing. That's what Taoist priest said himself. The reason why he was given such a Taoist name was because when he was apprenticed, he said something wrong, right? Although I don't know what he said wrong, it doesn't hurt to do a little artistic processing, right? Zhang Yinluo rolled his eyes and said to Dongfang Xin and Zhu Ying, Hey, Taoist priest is a good man. He has no malice. He is willing to reason with us, so you're not allowed to be rude and don't have any bad intentions. Especially you, Dongfang Xin. You have been running around with Zhu Ying these 2 days, and you deliberately mounted your shameless spearhead on a short spear. What do you want to do? Dongfang Xin whistled as if nothing had happened. Of course, I want to take Zhu Ying around to familiarize herself with the human world and learn about the habits and customs of human beings. Then why did you dress up like a young lady and a maid who didn't know anything about the world and sneaked out to play? Zhang Yinluo turned his head gloomily and looked at Sun Lang. Although you don't want to cause trouble, when others come to you, it's self-defense. It doesn't matter how you beat them. I say, this method and style of doing things seem very familiar. Sun Lang blinked and said, I don't know anything, Meow. I don't like fishing, Meow. I don't like eating fish the most. DZ. It's disgusting. Zhang Yinluo pushed Sun Lang's face aside with a look of disgust, then shook his finger at the two girls and said seriously, Remember, don't cause trouble and don't mess around. Daoist priest by Shui wants to observe you for a while to make sure that Zhu Ying is completely harmless, so you should behave yourself these days. Especially you, Dongfang Xian, don't take out your broken spear casually, and don't wear such light and revealing clothes. Don't run around to provoke those dirty people and then beat them up. Do you understand? I'm most worried about you. I always feel that Taoist priest by Shui will treat you as a monster. I know, long-winded. Dongfang Xian picked her ears and said disdainfully, You haven't even entered the door, and you already think of yourself as the boss's wife. Zhang Yinluo was slightly stunned, and then his voice rose by an octave. What did you say? Sun Lang quietly gave Dongfang Xian a thumbs up, and then pretended to look around and winked at Zhu Ying as if nothing had happened. Monsters were essentially wild creatures. They paid attention to the law of the jungle and the law of the jungle. They had no moral integrity or shame. For Zhu Ying, Sun Lang not only had a lot of unknown substances that made her drool, but also had the power that she could not resist. If she did not listen to him, who else could she listen to? So the little flower demon blinked her eyes, put her hands together, and said innocently, Boss's wife? Sister Xan, is the boss's wife the woman who calculates accounts at the counter, directs the waiters, and greets the guests in the hotels and inns? The boss's wife is the boss's wife. That is to say, Sister Yinluo is Brother Sun Lang's wife? Good. I'll give you an extra tube of fertilizer today. Sun Lang's eyes flashed with praise, but he pretended to scold her. Don't talk nonsense. You're just a child. What do you know? Your sister Yinluo and I are innocent. Nothing has happened yet. Don't listen to rumors, understand? The little flower demon understood Sun Lang's eyes and became more energetic. She pretended to be innocent and said, Hey, aren't Brother Sun Lang and Sister Yinluo husband and wife? Then why do you always whisper together? Why does Sister Yinluo realize that it was you who did it when Brother Sun Lang did something bad? Why does Brother Sun Lang never touch us, but he can touch Sister Yinluo casually? Because he is a rogue, pervert, villain, idiot, bastard. Zhang Yinluo stood up. I don't care. I'm going back to my room. I'll leave this matter to you. After the girl finished speaking, she hurriedly turned around and quickly walked towards the backyard. But when she reached the door, she seemed to have thought of something and then trotted back. She raised her right hand and fiercely slapped Sun Lang's back twice. She said angrily, Don't think that I don't know what's going on. Oomph. Listening to the sound of her footsteps fading away, Sun Lang gave the two girls a thumbs up. You two children, you are really sensible. He took out two piercing cloud arrows from his pocket and placed them on the table. Just in case, if you encounter any danger, pull me. I'll be there soon. Take them with you. Also, don't listen to Yinluo about that ox-nosed old Taoist. Tomorrow, we'll work together to set a trap and let that ox-nosed old Taoist know how powerful we are. Chapter 125. The best time of the day is in the morning. Zhu Ying woke up from her sleep and opened her eyes. As a flower demon, she could have dissipated her doppelganger and returned to her body at night. But Dongfang Xian said that in order to improve their relationship and learn the customs and habits of human beings, it was better to sleep together. Sleeping together, that's not bad. Anyway, there's no harm in it. A murmur sounded. She lowered her head and saw Dongfang Xian resting her head on her chest, sleeping soundly. From time to time, She would gently rub her head a few times, showing a comfortable smile. She looked like a cute kitten. Zhu Ying frowned slightly, stretched out her hand, and touched her chest. It was soft. A large area of snow-white skin was soft and warm, like silk stuffed with cotton. As a flower demon who transformed from a chrysanthemum, due to species isolation, she really couldn't understand the attachment of mammals to this part. Only women will grow very big, and everyone's chest is not the same. Some people are big, some people are small. Just like Sister Yin Luo, her chest is particularly big. Mine is a little smaller, and Sister Xen is the smallest. Dongfang Xen, who was sleeping, wrinkled her nose for some reason and sneezed cutely. Zhu Ying was afraid that she would catch a cold, so she stretched out her hand and pulled the quilt, covering Dongfang Xian's smooth back and beautiful legs, and hugged her tighter. Dongfang Xian was surrounded by a warm embrace and a broad chest. She couldn't help but make a comfortable sound and rubbed Zhu Ying's chest again, sleeping more comfortably. Whether it's men or women, do they all like breasts? Sister Xian is like this. She likes to sleep on her pillow and also likes to touch it. So is Brother Sunlang. Not only does he always stare at my chest seriously, but he also stares at Sister Yin Luo most of the time. He has little interest in Sister Xian's chest, but he pays more attention to her legs. Sure enough, Brother Sunlang likes big breasts. Is there any way to make her breasts bigger? If it gets bigger, Brother Sunlang may like me more. Maybe he will give me more delicious things. That smell after an unknown period of time. Dongfang X, who was in his arms, opened her eyes. When she looked up, she saw Zhu Ying laughing and falling into some strange delusion. There was a trace of suspicious saliva slowly flowing down from the corner of his mouth. Come to your senses. Zhu Ying, remember, as a lady, don't show such an expression in front of others. You'll be seen as a pervert. Dongfang Xian extended her hand and knocked on the forehead of the monster girl. Like a big sister, she raised her finger and educated her new little sister in an old-fashioned manner. Then, she left Zhu Ying's arms, allowing the thin quilt to slide off her body, revealing the girl's developing and budding body. Dongfang Xian sat on the bed with her back facing Zhu Ying. Her smooth back, small shoulders, and black hair faced the flower demon and yawned. Come, help me comb my hair. Even she didn't notice that Zhu Ying looked at the little girl in front of her, the girl who claimed to be an elder sister, and showed a faint smile. She responded softly, then pulled the dressing box from the bedside, took out an ivory comb, and began to dress Dongfang Xian with a slightly unfamiliar technique. Time seemed to have stopped at this moment. In the spacious bed, two young girls were sitting on it. The girl who looked more mature was carefully combing the hair of the other girl. As she combed, she smiled. As for the young girl, she put on the appearance of an old person, gesturing with her hands and saying something in a serious manner. Sometimes they would exclaim and smile. Sometimes they would ponder together. Sometimes they would be distressed, and sometimes they would be in a mess. The pleasant laughter and the girls' shouts and quarrels made Sun Lang, who lived next door and heard some of the movements, seriously ponder a question. Is this flower demon a chrysanthemum spirit or a lily spirit? After the two girls finished combing each other's hair and washing each other's hair, Dongfang Xen jumped up, stretched, turned her head to look at Zhu Ying, and showed a bright smile. And then that. Zhu Ying also showed a quite expectant expression and nodded vigorously. Well, let's do it. Dongfang Xen patted her chest, indicating that she would take care of it. Then she reached out and took the long spear leaning in front of the bed. After twisting it a few times, she took off the sturdy spearhead and pointed it at Zhu Ying, whose face was flushed. After a while, how about here? Wow, so many. Oh, there's still a lot of stock. Big. Ching. Morning. Of. The window was pushed open forcefully. Zhang Yinluo's cheeks were red, and he roared like a lion. Don't say such strange things in other people's yard. Dongfang Xian and Zhu Ying, who were squatting in the flower bed and raising the iron pot together to apply fertilizer to Zhu Ying's body, turned around in surprise. Dongfang Xian was stunned for a moment and said, as long as a person's mind is dirty, everything he hears is wrong. Zhu Ying, in the future, You must not become like that woman. I think she's going to be led astray by you now." Amidst Zhang Yinluo's angry roar, the two girls giggled as they added the last of the fertilizer. Then, they buried it firmly in the ground. Finally, Zhu Ying used his demonic energy to seal the mysterious smell of the immaterial substance. At the dinner table, Zhang Yinluo angrily reprimanded the two girls for their crimes. Finally, she glared at the sloppy Sun Lang and said, "Why don't you take care of them?" Dongfang Xen pulled the bowl with her chopsticks. More and more like a mother who doesn't listen to her daughter and has to complain about her husband. Zhang Yinluo sighed, reached out, grabbed Dongfang Xen's hand, and whispered, "Hey, listen to me. From today on, Taoist by Shui will observe Zhu Ying's daily behavior and situation. I'm not joking. This is very important. Once Taoist by Shui decides that Zhu Ying is not suitable to live here, he will take Zhu Ying away from us. You don't want this to happen, do you? So, prove to the Taoist that even if Zhu Ying lives here with you, he could be very happy and there is no danger. Do you understand? So, don't take the initiative to cause trouble, don't do dangerous things, and don't have unnecessary disputes with others. But if there are evil people targeting you, if there are evil people who want to hurt you, then you should protect yourself decisively, and then fight back, and don't let yourself be hurt. I and Sun Lang will protect you. No matter what happens, we will stand by your side, but you have to work hard. Do you understand?" At this time, Yinluo's expression was sincere, his eyes were sincere, and his whole body was emitting a serious and kind light. Sun Lang turned his head expressionlessly. Appeared the most troublesome form of this big chest. Dongfang Xen blinked her eyes and suddenly pulled her hand back. She carelessly cleaned the rice in the bowl and muttered, "Really? Why did it suddenly become like this? Okay. I promise you, be a good child, okay? Zhu Ying, let's go." Looking at Dongfang Xen pulling Zhu Ying and running away in a slightly sorry state, Zhang Yinluo tilted his head, and the inexplicable temperament just now shattered into nothingness. How did this guy become so obedient? What's going on? Sun Lang shrugged as if nothing had happened, but in his heart, he was greatly relieved. Damn. Fortunately, she was stupid and didn't realize how terrible she was. Good. You can continue to be so retarded. Zhang Yinluo, who was unaware of something that had just happened, began to clean up the dishes and chopsticks and said, "Don't you want to go and have a look? I don't know if today will go well. I hope it goes well, whether it's the two of them or Taoist by Shui. Alas, I hope your somewhat unreliable plan can be implemented smoothly, and in the end, everyone will be happy." Sun Lang smiled meaningfully. "Well, my plan will definitely succeed. Right, Taoist by Shui?" A certain Taoist, who was squatting on a street corner outside the fishing immortal house, sneezed loudly. Chapter 126. Ranger Guild's Loyalty Building. Hu Shouxin came to his office amidst the greetings of the Rangers and brewed a pot of tea for himself. The fragrance of the tea filled the air as the tea flowed, causing his thoughts to drift. I wonder how Sun Lang is doing now. He said that he wants to leave the guild and do things independently. But it's a good thing. I heard that he recently bought a restaurant and mingled with a group of girls all day long. Is this guy finally going to grow into an outstanding adult? He slowly took a sip of tea and sighed imperceptibly. After 2 years, he had almost given up hope, but Sun Lang appeared in front of him alive and well. No one knew whether it was the mercy of fate or the continuation of a conspiracy. Sun Lang now looked more lively and cheerful than before, but he could feel that in addition to the joy of reuniting with an old friend, there was more vigilance and alienation in this guy's heart. What happened in the Battle of the Great Desolate Mountain 2 years ago? What did he experience in these 2 years to make him distrust and be on guard against his former comrade whom he could entrust his life to? But no matter how he asked indirectly, Sun Lang refused to say. And if he didn't want to reveal his secret, no one in the world could make him obediently speak. This guy is really troublesome. While Hu Shouxin was in a daze, a commotion suddenly came from outside the window. It seemed that many people were rushing in a certain direction. The president's train of thought was interrupted. He frowned and shouted, "What's going on outside?" The ranger who was standing guard outside the door today smiled and replied, "Reporting to the leader, I heard that Embroidery Hall is going to sell stinky tofu today. Everyone is going to watch the fun." Stinky tofu? These 2 days, Hushoshin was busy with his wife and child and hiding from Sun Lang at the same time. Hu Huaisho knew the character of his comrade. This guy was independent from a guild and had no resources, channels, or fame. He would most likely turn around and make fun of him. It was better to hide far away. Therefore, he naturally hadn't heard of stinky tofu, a magical delicacy that had become popular in the city in just a few days. "What's going on? Come in and tell me." The ranger pushed open the door and asked for a cup of tea with a mischievous grin. After taking a sip, he smiled and said, "You should know about the Embroidery Hall, right? I don't know what's wrong with Big Head Zhang Jianyuan these past few days. He actually wants to wash his hands of gold and intends to sell that stinky tofu." Speaking of which, this stinky tofu was quite interesting. It smelled extremely stinky, just like that, but it tasted very good. Logically speaking, no matter how delicious this thing is, no one would be willing to eat it. However, this Zhang Jianyuan seems to be extremely smart. In order to promote this stinky tofu, he actually set up an arena, placed a few cans of stinky tofu, and offered a reward. He said that the person who finishes eating the stinky tofu first will receive a reward of 100 silver taels and a reward. After all, it's 100 silver taels. For some people, even if it's shit, they would still be willing to eat it. Then, these people who are willing to risk everything will discover that this thing only smells bad, but it tastes very good when eaten. This matter will spread from 1 to 10, and 10 to 100. It will attract more and more people's curiosity and curiosity. As word of mouth spreads, everyone will know about the stinky tofu. It smells bad, but it tastes very good when eaten. The more Hushoshin listened, the more he felt that something was amiss. "This scheme seems very familiar," the ranger smiled and said. "Who knows? Anyway, this is the case. Today's arena is near our Zhong-E building. President, you have a good location here. You should be able to see it when you open the window." Hushoshin waved his hand and let the guy continue to stand guard. He got up and went to the window. Opening the window, Hu Huaisho took a sip of tea and looked at the crowd outside the window. Stinky tofu, Zhang Jianyuan, and this kind of scheme. "Sun Lang, what do you want to do today? I want to see." Puff! The tea in his mouth spurted out. Hushoshin rubbed his eyes hard and then looked carefully. 2 beautiful girls were holding hands and running towards the arena. Fuck! Isn't this the sister of Chao Patao? At the same time, Dongfang Xin seemed to have noticed something. She looked back, but with Hushoshin's ability, it was too easy to avoid her sight. The girl looked for a moment, but found nothing, so she turned back, looked at Zhuing, and smiled. "It's okay. Remember what I said. If someone comes over and wants to touch you, then remember to hold my hand, and don't let go." Zhuing nodded obediently, and then looked up in the direction of the arena. The man who was standing on the stage was the Zhang Jianyuan that Brother Sun Lang talked about. And then, the little flower demon and Dongfang Xin looked at each other at the same time and showed a tacit and sly smile. Taoist by Shui, who was far behind and observing the 2 girls, sneezed again. He rubbed his nose and said in his heart, "Sure enough, although the stinky tofu tastes good, eating too much is also bad for the body, causing vomiting and diarrhea, injuring the vitality of the body, and making the body weak. I'm afraid that there will be a cold." Thinking of this, he began to gnash his teeth again. Zhang Jianyuan, this evil beast. He looked in the direction of the arena, at Zhang Jianyuan on the stage, and shot a bitter look at him. "Wait, you evil beast! I have the help of Sun Lang Sunday. This time, I will teach you and the people who instigated you a lesson." Zhang Jianyuan was standing on the stage, cupping his hands in front of his chest and speaking loudly. Then he directed his followers to set up the venue. Suddenly, one of his followers came in a hurry and whispered in his ear, "Big Incense Head, our informant reported that the Taoist priest is here again. Do you think we should drag him into the alley and beat him up? Or, at the thought of the Taoist, Zhang Jinyuan couldn't help but smile. He thought for a while, and then grinned. No need. Asked the chef backstage to prepare a dish with more ingredients. Taoist by Shui didn't know that he had been exposed to the enemy. He gnashed his teeth for a while, and then secretly shook his head. This time I can't. I was invited by Sun Lang to observe the daily behavior and actions of the little flower demon and understand her character and nature. This is serious business. Today is not the time to settle personal grudges. Anyway, Zhang Jinyuan can't run away. Wait for another day. Suddenly, his body trembled slightly, as if he was struck by lightning. The Taoist by Shui lowered his head imperceptibly and looked away. He took out a small mirror from his arms and quickly glanced through the reflection of the mirror. A tall, handsome, long-haired man was looking around leisurely. In the eyes of ordinary people, he was just a tall and sturdy man with a handsome face. But in the eyes of Taoist by Shui, a faint trace of demonic aura was as bright as a fire in the dark. This is a monster. No, a demon. This demon's name was Xieji. The energy and physical strength of the demon race were better than that of ordinary people. They could reach Mingzhou after a night of traveling. When he entered the city in the morning, according to the information of the mission, he targeted Marquis Jing'an's mansion. But the problem was that Marquis Jing'an's mansion had just broken out in chaos and was now in a state of martial law. So it was not a good idea to go directly to the mansion now. So he decided to ask around for information and formulate a new investigation plan. It was a pleasant surprise. Xieji's gaze fell on a girl in a yellow dress. To think that I would actually find someone of the same race who had just awakened in this place. Although she was a flower demon and looked very weak, mingling with humans and showing such a weak smile, she was still of the same race as me. It seems that the operation plan really needs to be revised, so Zhu Ying found Zhang Jinyuan, whom Sun Lang mentioned. Zhang Jinyuan found Taoist by Shui, who repeatedly came to make trouble. Taoist by Shui found a demon who hid well, but still leaked a trace of demonic aura. The demon found the young demon Zhu Ying, who had just awakened. These four fellows, unbeknownst to each other, revealed a smile of, oh, Moses Roy at the same time. Chapter 127. Let us first understand the current chaotic situation that is surging with undercurrents. Zhu Ying, Zhang Jinyuan, Taoist by Shui, and Xieji. The young monster, the new capitalist, the bad-mouthed exorcist, and the adult demon. Each of these four suspicious guys had found their target. Each of them was up to no good. Each of them wanted to do a little work and thought that they were safe. Zhu Ying, an innocent young monster, was like a piece of pure white paper that Sun Lang, who was up to no good, and Dongfang Exen, who had a slightly skewed worldview. Out of the monster's nature of survival of the fittest and the habit of obeying the strong, she had unconsciously become Sun Lang's henchman. Brother Sun Lang said that he wanted to set a trap for the Taoist, so she would work hard for more canned herring. And the key to setting a trap for the Taoist was Zhang Jinyuan. Zhang Jinyuan, who was targeted by Zhu Ying, was undoubtedly targeting Taoist by Shui. In the past few days, he had been fighting a battle of wits with this bad-mouthed Taoist. His business experience and ability to organize people had been greatly improved, and his vigilance had also been greatly increased. He was now somewhat grateful to this Taoist. Even yesterday, he did not come to make trouble, which made Zhang Jinyuan feel empty in his heart, as if something was missing. So this time, when he found Taoist by Shui, he could not help but show a gentle smile. I miss you so much, you coward. I always feel that if I fight with this Taoist for another month, I will become an elegant capitalist, as Master Sun said. The above were the goals and thoughts of the carefree man and the monster. They did not know the truth, had no worries, and were very happy like fools. Taoist White Snow, on the other hand, was in a lot of trouble. He was responsible for monitoring Zhu Ying, and he had an affair with Zhang Jinyuan. He even found a demon. As the one who knew the most among the four, he was obviously the most miserable one. The little flower monster has just been awakened and is very immature. She doesn't know how to hide her monster aura and protect herself, so she can be easily detected by her own kind. That demon seems to be an adult. It must have discovered Zhu Ying's existence. The disciples of Taoism have the mission of monitoring the demon. I have an agreement with Swordsman's son that I can't let him take Zhu Ying away. Fortunately, he hasn't discovered me yet, but his attention must be all on Zhu Ying at this time. I can't go and warn him, or he will be aware of it. Besides, there are so many people here. If they fight, the aftermath will hurt the innocent. Fortunately, this demon should have the same concerns. He doesn't care about the life and death of human beings, but he certainly cherishes his own life. Otherwise, he would have taken Zhu Ying away long ago. He certainly doesn't want to make a big deal out of it. Xie was indeed thinking this way. Discovering Zhu Ying was just a pleasant surprise. Even though the messenger had emphasized many times that he was not allowed to cause trouble when he was delegating the mission, every demonic beast had the duty of finding companions and guiding them. This was not considered causing trouble. Marquis Jing'an's Fu was heavily guarded and needed to be slowly plotted and could not be rushed. So right now, he could first rescue this young demonic beast from the hands of humans and see what abilities she had and whether she could be of any help. But there were so many people here, so he couldn't directly take her away. Mingzhou City was an important town in the north of the empire, and there were many powerhouses guarding it. Once they found out, there would be endless trouble. Thinking of this, he made up his mind. He pushed the people in front of him aside and squeezed in the direction of Zhu Ying. Taoist Bai Shui, who had been paying attention to Xie's movements, saw that the demon was moving toward Zhu Ying. He was anxious and squeezed in from another direction. Zhu Ying followed Sun Lang's instructions and took Dongfang Xian's hand. She said with a smile, "This stinky tofu seems very interesting." Brother Sun Lang said to let us have a taste. "Let's go there now." Dongfang Xian nodded and said, Okay, let's go on the stage and have a taste. Zhang Jianyuan knows Sun Lang, and he also knows me. He will let us go on the stage. At this moment, the construction of the combat arena had already been completed. The disciples of the embroidery hall had set up numerous large wooden tables and lifted up numerous jars of stinky tofu. They opened the lids, and a mysterious smell slowly emanated from them. This smell was so familiar to everyone, to the extent that even if they'd heard of its story in the past and knew that although it smelled smelly, it seemed to be very delicious when eaten, they still couldn't help but shrink back at the sight of it. Only the real warriors, those who didn't know what was good for them, and those who only wanted money, went up to it. Of course, there were also a few messy people mixed in the crowd. Zhang Jianyuan paid attention to his old enemy. He waved his hand and called a little brother over. He whispered, "Tell the people below that no matter what this Taoist priest wants to do, when he gets close to the arena, push him up." The little brother smiled knowingly. In the past few days, everyone had become familiar with the Taoist priest. They already knew how to play. Zhang Jianyuan's eyes swept across the audience. Suddenly, he saw two beautiful girls in the crowd. One of the girls in blue jumped up and waved at him. She looked very familiar. He looked at her carefully for a moment. That little girl was the one who stood beside Master Sun in front of the fishing immortal house. Thinking of this, his face suddenly changed. He carefully glanced at the audience a few times and didn't find that horrible female devil. He couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. It's good that she didn't come. But the girl in yellow next to this girl was a woman he had never seen before. Could it be that she was Master Sun's new lover recently? Sigh. Master Sun is good at everything, but he is too bold. He is with a female devil who is like a celestial fairy, but he still dares to fool around. I haven't seen him for a few days, and I don't know where he found such a girl. He is too bold. However, since they are great hero Sun's treasured family, I naturally have to take care of them. Could it be that great hero Sun hasn't been able to leave recently? So, he entrusted these two ladies to appraise the stinky tofu and see how well I have done. Oh, Master Sun is so considerate. I'm also looking forward to Master Sun's teaching and guidance. Thinking of this, he became even more excited. He reached out and called another little brother over. He whispered, "Do you see those two girls? Ask them to come to the stage. Remember, be polite and don't offend them." In the past few days, Big Incense Head's business had become more and more prosperous. His prestige in the embroidery hall had risen instead of falling. His orders were carried out thoroughly. The little brother who received the order used the unique communication method of the embroidery hall to assign the task. Several shills, who were hidden in the crowd in plain clothes, understood. They separated the crowd and respectfully invited Zhu Ying and Dongfang Xin to the stage. The two pretty girls attracted the attention of the audience, making the atmosphere under the stage more and more heated. Xie squeezed the front, but it was too late. Zhu Ying and Dongfang Xin had already stepped on the stage, and he didn't catch them. The demon hesitated for a moment, not knowing whether to follow them or wait and see. Taoist by Shui, who had also squeezed the front, also noticed this and breathed a sigh of relief. He glanced at Xie, who was in front of him on the left, as if nothing had happened. He was thinking about the probability of success if he stabbed Xie in the back now. But the next moment, a calm voice came to his ears. "Welcome. We have been waiting for you for a long time." Then he felt a huge force behind him, pushing him forward. Taoist by Shui didn't notice it and involuntarily rushed forward. He even knocked Xie, who was in a daze in front of him, to the front of the crowd. The Taoist by Shui's heart skipped a beat. But before he had time to observe whether the demon was hostile, a familiar voice that he would never forget in his life sounded from above with a smile. Zhang Jinyuan looked at Taoist by Shui with a smile. His tone and expression were sincere, as if they had met for the first time. The elegant capitalist smile was not strange at all. "Oh, since this guest is so enthusiastic, please come to the stage and have a taste of my shop's stinky tofu." Then he turned his head and glanced at Xie, who was also squeezed to the front. When he saw his handsome face, out of the instinctive hostility of a man to a man who was more handsome than him, he also showed a kind smile. "This guest, would you like to have a taste?" Taoist by Shui's eyes suddenly flashed with a bright light. "Zhang Jianyuan, you don't seem to be useless." Chapter 128. In fact, when Zhang Jianyuan asked Xie to go on the stage, Xie refused, because he couldn't go on the stage immediately. First, he wanted to see if this was a trap. Second, he wanted to see what was going on with the guy who bumped into him just now. Thus, the fiendish demon turned around to look, but the human who had just bumped into his back had already climbed up the platform agilely. He turned his head and smiled apologetically at the fiendish demon. He was an ordinary middle-aged man, probably an accountant or something like that. He looked timid and cowardly, so he probably didn't do it on purpose just now. Then he looked up at the stage. As a monster, he had no interest in the tasting and stinky tofu held by humans. He stood there with only one goal in mind, and that was the monster that had just awakened. But at this time, in public, he couldn't take her away by force. So he had to change his strategy. He would wait for an opportunity to get in touch with her, then find a way to get in touch with her, reveal his identity, and then persuade her. But the little girl next to her was very troublesome. Seeing that they were holding hands, they should be close. Stupid. How could monsters coexist with humans? As a newly awakened monster, Zhuing didn't know anything. Besides, she was too naive. Her mind was full of Sun Lang's instructions, the reward, and the legendary delicious stinky tofu. So she didn't realize that she had been targeted by an adult monster. But as a monster, her intuition and instinct told her that something was wrong. She looked around and finally fixed her eyes on Xie. The little female monster glanced at this guy curiously, but he was obviously not as attractive as the task reward and stinky tofu, so Zhuing immediately looked away. Well, she just found me, but she didn't say anything more. Was she hinting at something? Was she hinting that it was inconvenient for her to reveal her identity, but she had found me? Then, thinking of this, Xie smiled faintly. In the face of Zhang Jinyuan's invitation, he jumped onto the stage and said, "Okay, I'll try it." Taoist White Snow breathed a long sigh of relief. "My Tao ancestor, I was scared to death. Fortunately, I was smart enough to disguise myself today. Although I couldn't fool Zhang Jianyuan, at least this monster didn't find any clues. Otherwise, when I bumped into him just now, no matter how well I hid, he would immediately be on guard when he saw me dressed as a Taoist. Phew, fortunately, I dressed up before. It should be known that Taoist white snow had been cultivating for dozens of years. Because of his straightforward nature, he was loved and cherished by his seniors and peers in the sect. Under the care of his seniors and fellow disciples for decades, Taoist white snow practiced a good skill of reducing his presence and hiding. Just now, when he bumped into Xie, if it were other disciples of Taoism, no matter how well they hid, they would subconsciously reveal their hostility at that moment, which would attract the attention and vigilance of the demon. However, Taoist white snow was able to get away with it, as if nothing had happened. Of course, this also had a lot to do with Xie's own carelessness. Most of the demon's attention was on Zhuing. Just as Taoist white snow never expected that he would encounter a demon when he came to observe Zhu after making an appointment yesterday, Xie would never expect that on his first mission in 2 years. When he met a fellow who had just awakened on the way, there would be a Taoist with bad intentions standing beside him. It was really the choice of the stone of fate. Alas, what was even more out of Xie's expectation was that the middle-aged man who bumped into him just now had an unspeakable relationship with the owner of this arena. When their eyes met, a lot of information was transmitted in an instant. Zhang Jianyuan walked in front of Taoist white snow with a warm smile on his face. He wanted to convey the joy of reunion with his eyes. He wanted to tell Taoist white snow with his eyes that he was prepared to treat him more warmly than before. But then his expression changed slightly, because there was no anger or complaint in Taoist white snow's eyes. Instead, there was an unprecedented seriousness and vigilance, as if he was facing a great enemy. It seemed that the target of vigilance was not him. At this time, Taoist priest white snow tilted his head slightly and signaled in Xie's direction. Then he smiled and said, "Big incense head, let me challenge you one more time. You just have to focus on bringing up the strongest stinky tofu." Zhang Jianyuan said with a faint smile, "Are you sure?" Taoist white snow raised his head and said, "Do I look like a braggart? Whether it's true or not, you'll know when you see it." Big fragrant head nodded with a smile and said, "Okay, then I'll look forward to your performance. Everyone, please take your seats. Don't worry, we've prepared enough stinky tofu. Let's do it in groups." The followers of the embroidery hall were already familiar with the rules. They greeted the first batch of challengers to take their seats. Xie walked in the direction of Zhu and wanted to sit next to the little flower fairy. But 2 disciples of the embroidery hall stretched out their arms and stopped him. They said with a fake smile, "Sir, that's the women's area. Your seat is here." Xie raised his eyebrows, but it was not appropriate for him to lose his temper. He snorted and strode to his seat. "Forget it. Since I've already come up, I won't do anything strange. Anyway, my fellow clansman can't run away. When she gets off the stage, I'll follow her and wait for an opportunity to talk to her." When he approached his seat, he was slightly stunned. This table was for 2 people, and his deskmate happened to be the middle-aged man who had bumped into him not long ago. The man seemed to be stunned for a moment. After glancing at him with a little fear, he bowed and said, "I'm sorry. I'm really sorry just now. Human beings are cowardly and incompetent." He snorted disdainfully and swaggered to sit next to a Taoist from the Xianmen sect who was born in a famous family, had practiced Xiangong for decades, and had already set a trap for him. Then, Zhang Jianyuan came out and said a few words. Amidst the thunderous cheers of the audience, gongs and drums sounded at the same time. 2 rows of disciples of the embroidery hall in tight clothes held jars of stinky tofu and opened the jars of stinky tofu. In an instant, the stinky smell spread out, causing the audience to exclaim in surprise. All the humans present subconsciously showed their disgust for the stench. However, there were always a few outliers among the crowd. For example, the disciples of the embroidery hall, who did not change their expressions and even showed an intoxicated look during the whole process. For example, Taoist Bai Shui, who had a complicated look on his face. For example, Zhu whose eyes were shining. For example, Dongfang Xian, who seemed to have discovered another new world. The disciples of the embroidery hall used big spoons and scooped the soup into the bowls of the contestants one by one. Xie had been in a state of shock and confusion since just now. He had only heard of the name stinky tofu before. When he saw the scene of tens of thousands of people watching, he thought that it was some kind of human delicacy. He thought that it would not hurt to try a little. The desire for good food was the desire of all living creatures. Even monsters were no exception. But this smell, delicacy, delicious? Oh my God, when did human beings become so horrible? Xie looked around. Everyone was nervous with a trace of expectation. In an instant, he felt that the world was so strange that a simple monster like him could not accept it. The young man of the embroidery hall, who was in charge of distributing food, came to him and poured a big spoonful of stinky tofu into his bowl. Xie looked at the delicacy in front of him, and the corners of his eyes twitched. Suddenly, the look in his eyes changed. He leaned closer and sniffed gently. The terrible stench almost made him suffocate. Yes, this smell. His eyes sharpened, and he slapped the table and stood up. He grabbed the lackey of the embroidery hall and said coldly, "What's in it?" The lackey was stunned for a moment, and then shrugged his shoulders as if he was used to it. He slapped his hand away and said, "If you don't like it, please leave. The competition is all voluntary. We didn't force you to eat it." Then, he went to add more food for the middle-aged man beside Xie. Xie looked at him coldly. The man's face was full of expectation. He thanked Xie repeatedly and even swallowed his saliva as if he was extremely greedy. Xie felt nauseous when he saw this. However, he sniffed and seemed to have noticed something. He snatched the bowl from the middle-aged man's hand and asked sternly, "Why does my bowl taste different from his?" The young man of the embroidery hall rolled his eyes and ignored him. He walked to the next table. On the other hand, the middle-aged man laughed foolishly and said, "Brother, don't be angry. If you don't like your bowl, we can change." After saying that, he took the bowl of stinky tofu in front of Xie and took out a pair of chopsticks. He picked up a piece of stinky tofu and ate it happily. The juices spilled everywhere, and the stench filled the air. However, the scary thing was that this guy actually had a look of enjoyment on his face, as if he was eating some delicacy. The corners of Xie's eyes twitched. Could this guy be a pig demon? He glanced at the stinky tofu in his bowl. He really didn't have the courage to eat this. Forget it, then I won't eat it. In any case, I don't have any reason to eat this. If I lose, then so be it. After the competition, I'll follow that fellow clansman down the stage and have a good talk with her to end this farce. He planned his next course of action in his heart. However, in the next instant, the middle-aged man beside him suddenly let out a shrill cry. The bowl in his hand fell onto the table, and he clutched his stomach as he fell to the ground. Large beads of sweat seeped out of his forehead. Xie faltered for a moment before shaking his head with a smile. "Stupid human, I already told you that there was something wrong with this bowl, but you didn't believe me." However, to his surprise, the middle-aged man actually raised his hand and pointed at him with a trembling finger. He hissed, "What did you do? What did you do? What did you do to this bowl of stinky tofu?" Chapter 129. At this time, on and off the stage, everyone's attention was attracted by this sudden situation. The surroundings were silent. Only the middle-aged man, who was holding his stomach and constantly screaming, pointed at the handsome man at the same table and made a bloody and tearful accusation. His words were mournful, and his appearance was tragic. It really made people unable to bear to look at him and feel sympathy for him. Xie was stunned. Then, he shook his head and sneered. "What does it have to do with me? There is something wrong with that bowl of stinky tofu." "You!" Before he could finish his words, a figure rushed up from the side of the stands and crawled to the side of the middle-aged man who had fallen to the ground. He picked him up and kept shaking him. He said repeatedly, "Brother, what's wrong with you? Bro, say something. What's wrong with you? Brother, you can't die. You told me yourself that one day You would get the first place in this challenge and get the 100 taels of silver as a bonus. You had to eat our stinky tofu until you were full. Everyone looked over. It turned out that it was the organizer of this event, Zhang Yuan Y. But at this moment, why was he holding this strange middle-aged man and looking so sad? In the crowd, the shill that Embroidery Hall had arranged in advance began to explain in a very professional manner. That middle-aged man was our earliest customer. Since the first time we held the food tasting event, he has been supporting us. These days, he has been absent for almost every event. He can be said to be a very loyal customer. He has established a deep friendship with everyone in our shop. Originally, he could have gotten the reward of 100 taels of silver a long time ago. However, he said that there was still room for improvement and that there was still a long way to go for the stinky tofu. If he got the reward now, he would only get an incomplete champion. It would be completely meaningless. Every time he said that, he would point out the deficiencies of the stinky tofu in detail. He also made a promise with our boss that one day, he would get the first place fair and square. I didn't expect. When everyone heard such a sad and beautiful love story, friendship story, and then looked at the pale middle-aged man on the stage, the anxious and sorrowful Zhang Yuan Y, they couldn't help but feel a lump in their throat. The way they looked at Xie Ji became unfriendly. "Doctor, go and find a doctor." Zhang Jianyuan waved his arms and shouted. Some of his lackeys hurriedly went to find a doctor. Then, the leader stretched out his trembling hand and pointed at Xie Ji. "Friend, why did you do such a thing? You were just causing trouble earlier, weren't you? You were on the stage, but you said that there was something wrong with our stinky tofu. This brother of mine is kind-hearted, so he swapped a bowl with you. Who would have thought that you would take the opportunity to poison him?" Zhang Jinyuan's voice was filled with grief and indignation as he patted his chest. "I, Zhang Jinyuan, have a small fortune in my own business. Why would I change my profession to stinky tofu? For money? No. I just want to let more people eat this delicious food that is good for the body at a reasonable price, so that we can spend the least amount of money and eat the best food." His eyes were red as he looked at the person in his arms and said, "I know that the business world is like a battlefield. I know that this Zhang is blocking some people's path to wealth. You can come to cause trouble. You can come to maliciously compete. You can come to slander me. I will accept all of these, but you should never have done this. You shouldn't have extended your evil hands to my friend. You shouldn't have extended your evil hands to this innocent person." Taoist by Shui suddenly covered his mouth and retched. However, he reacted quickly and let go of his hands. He said weakly, old friend, am I dying? You have to remember, no matter what, you can't give birth to a son without an asshole. Old friend, don't talk nonsense. You will live well. You still have a lot of stinky tofu to eat. The ones that I made, personally, the most delicious stinky tofu. Zhang Jianyuan held Taoist by Shui's hand affectionately. He was so excited that he couldn't control himself. Taoist by Shui's hand was so tight that it made cracking sounds. Taoist by Shui seemed to be touched by Zhang Jianyuan's deep friendship and excitedly held Zhang Jianyuan's hand. Xie Ji was inexplicably implicated. His intuition told him that something was wrong, but he couldn't put his finger on it. So he turned around and wanted to leave. "This is really strange. Where are you going?" Zhang Jianyuan shouted. The henchmen of Embroidery Hall surrounded him. "You poisoned and harmed someone, and you still want to leave? Come with us to see the officials." A cold glint flashed through Xie Ji's eyes. If it was any other time, he would have already killed a mortal who didn't know what was good for them. However, he couldn't act recklessly in front of so many people. After all, this was Ming province, and if things got out of hand, he most likely wouldn't be able to escape. Thus, he suppressed his anger and slowly said, "I don't know what you're talking about. This is my first day in Ming province, and I already smelled that there was something wrong with this stinky tofu. That's why I asked about it. He's one of your subordinates, and you don't even care about it. Furthermore, he was the one who snatched that bowl of stinky tofu, so you can't blame me. You're saying that we poisoned it ourselves?" Zhang Jinyuan said with grief and indignation. We've been holding this kind of event for several days, and no one has ever eaten anything wrong with it. Why did it have to be you? And it was only your bowl that had a problem, but no one else's bowl had a problem? Xieji shook his head angrily and shouted, How would I know? Anyway, I didn't do it. Don't keep bothering me. Since you don't admit it, come with me to see the officials. Zhang Jinyuan said loudly. The prefecture lord is a wise man who can judge right from wrong. If you're really innocent, he'll definitely give you justice. See the officials? Xieji's heart trembled. Mingzhou was a big city of the empire, and there were crouching tigers and hidden dragons in the government. Maybe there were some powerful people hiding there. If he, a demon, was recognized, how could he survive? Zhang Jinyuan saw the hesitation on his face and shouted, Since you're innocent, why don't you dare to see the officials? You said that you didn't do it, but you don't want to prove your innocence in front of the officials. Why is that? The shills in the crowd below understood and shouted at the right time. See the officials! See the officials! See the officials! The crowd was immediately stirred up. For a moment, the shouts of see the officials came like a tsunami. The crowd was so angry that Xieji didn't know what to do. Seeing the officials was definitely out of the question. However, at this moment, most of the people on the stage were skilled in martial arts. Although they weren't very good, they couldn't be underestimated. It would be difficult to break out of their encirclement. If his demonic power was exposed, there would be no peace in the future. Xieji cursed in his heart and decided to deal with this matter first. He said slowly, I think I need to find a doctor first to take a look at this friend. If there's any injury, treat it, detoxify the poison, and stabilize his condition first. Wait. At this moment, the victim of the poisoning case suddenly raised his hand slowly and pointed out, I remember that he grabbed the collar of a young man who was in charge of distributing the stinky tofu. Did he take that opportunity to sprinkle the poison into the stinky tofu? After that, in order to find a reason not to eat it, he snatched the bowl from my hand and asked the young man why the taste of the two bowls was different. So, not only did he poison me, he also wanted to poison other people. Luckily, I was the first to be poisoned, and other friends didn't have time to eat it. Xieji said angrily, Why would I do such a despicable thing? Don't talk nonsense. According to what you said, the bowl that I snatched from your hand was also poisoned? That bowl of stinky tofu had no problem. The weak middle-aged man looked at him and laughed sarcastically. You said it had no problem? Then do you have the guts to eat it? Xieji was enraged by this matter. Without thinking, he said angrily, Why wouldn't I dare? Chapter 130. Xieji was infuriated by this. Without thinking, he said angrily, Why wouldn't I dare? Anyway, I'm a monster. Even if there's poison in it, I won't be poisoned to death. He took out a pair of chopsticks and stuffed 2 large pieces of stinky tofu into his mouth. He chewed hard a few times. His first reaction was, Damn, it's really fragrant. It's not as smelly as it smells. Then he put down his chopsticks and looked at the people present coldly. How is it? The people of the embroidery hall looked at him blankly and then began to whisper to each other. He must have taken the antidote in advance. It must be like this F***CKU. Xieji took a deep breath. He really couldn't bear it anymore. But at this moment, the middle-aged man said softly, Wait a minute. I think this brother doesn't hide his anger on the surface, so he must have something in his heart. He must have amazing skills, but there's a trace of loneliness in his cold face. Recently, his glabella has been a bit, Taoist by Shui's occupational disease almost flared up, but he managed to keep his mouth shut. He sincerely said to Zhang Jinyuan, Brother, I'm really sorry that something like this happened today. I'm afraid it'll hurt your business. If this continues, it'll only bring you more harm than good. In my opinion, we need to find out the truth of this matter, but you still have to continue operating the arena. So, good brother, compared to this business, your life is more important. No matter how many losses there are, it's nothing. Zhang Jinyuan's words were impassioned. He held Taoist by Shui's wrist even more tightly. His eyes were full of an aura that said, "Don't think you can get away with it. After this matter is over, I'll settle accounts with you." Then he looked up and said to Xie, "Brother, we're in public. Don't make a fool of yourself here. Let's find a place, find a doctor, sit together, and talk about this matter. If it doesn't work, we'll go to the government. What do you think?" Xi's expression changed. Of course this was good. Now that he was in public, surrounded by people in all directions, even if he wanted to break out, he was restrained everywhere. If he could leave with these people and go to a secluded place with fewer people, it would be much more convenient whether it was to teach them a lesson or just leave. So he nodded, "All right." He looked at the middle-aged man coldly. "When the truth comes to light, see how I'll deal with you." Zhang Jianyuan remained calm and collected. He reached out and beckoned his assistant, who was usually his right-hand man, over. "I'll go. You stay here and continue the event." The deputy said awkwardly, "After this incident, who would dare to eat it?" Or Zhang Jianyuan frowned, and the image of Swordsman Sun's smiling face suddenly appeared in his mind. If Swordsman Sun had encountered such a situation, he had an idea. An idea flashed through his mind. He took a few steps forward, cupped his hands, and said in a distant voice, "Fellow villagers, I'm very sorry that this has happened and made a joke of myself in front of everyone. But please rest assured, even if a shameless villain stabs us in the dark, even if a Taoist priest with no asshole comes to make trouble, even if our competitors maliciously exclude us, our embroidery hall will never be defeated, and we will never retreat. Although such an incident has happened, the food tasting event will not end here. We still have to hold it." Zhang Jianyuan glanced at the several contestants on the stage, who looked embarrassed, and the hesitant audience below the stage. He took a deep breath and said loudly, "I know that everyone is uneasy, but it doesn't matter. Today's incident has sounded the alarm for us. From today onwards, Embroidery Hall will have one more rule. Before each pot of stinky tofu is served to the guests, we will eat it first." He strode to a table, took out his chopsticks, and reached out to pick up a piece of stinky tofu from a jar on that table. He ate it in big bites, then the next table and the next table. When the followers of Embroidery Hall saw this scene, their eyes were filled with tears. They shouted loudly, "Eat first! Eat first!" Their slogan was, "Eat from the jar." The shills below the stage were very discerning. At the same time, they also shouted loudly, stirring up the enthusiasm of the audience. Then, earth-shattering cheers rang out. This atmosphere affected the contestants on the stage. Many of them hesitated for a moment, then sat down again and continued the competition. Zhang Jianyuan looked at the heated atmosphere again and smiled slightly. He looked at the sky, and the smile of Hero Sun seemed to flash on the horizon. "If this continues, I will become the elegant capitalist that you said." He walked to the last table, and, as usual, he wanted to take a piece of stinky tofu from the jar, but he found that it was empty. He raised his head in surprise, and the beautiful girl in yellow gave him a brilliant smile. "Boss, give me another jar." "You're really shameless." After a moment, Taoist White Snow sighed and said, "I don't know who taught you to be so shameless." Zhang Jianyuan helped him avoid the crowd and walked into a secluded alley. "I'm warning you, don't insult Hero Sunday," the Taoist priest snorted. "Hero Sun? This is the person who taught you bad things? That kind of person deserves to be called a hero. Yesterday, I met a good person with the surname Sun. He has a graceful bearing and can be called a hero. He has already promised me that he will do me a small favor when the time comes. Zhang Jianyuan also sneered. "I advise you not to seek your own death. Brother is still here. Is it really okay to say this in front of him?" Xie, who was following behind the two and looking for a good opportunity to escape, frowned when he heard this. He vaguely felt that he had been fooled. Taoist White Snow waved his hand. "Compared to this, what did you add to the bowl of stinky tofu that was originally for him, but I ate it? Why is it so smelly? But it doesn't smell like shit." Zhang Jianyuan said coldly, "You cow nose, you owe me a big favor. In order to put on this show, I took out half a can of herring that I treasured. I endured the pain and added some. If I knew that you would eat it so easily, I would have added shit directly. I always felt that even if I added shit, you would still be able to eat it. Yes, of course I can eat it. Taoist White Snow stopped, and Zhang Jianyuan also let go of his hand that was supporting him. The two men turned back with evil intentions and stared at Xie behind them. Xie was followed by 4 henchmen of Embroidery Hall who were very good at fighting. At this moment, they also blocked Xie's escape route. The Taoist priest said indifferently, "Subduing demons and demons without fear of death has always been the duty of Taoists. As long as we can subdue demons, what's the big deal about eating shit?" When Xie heard this, no matter how stupid he was or how lucky he was, he knew that his whereabouts had been exposed. He looked at Taoist White Snow and Zhang Jianyuan with a ferocious expression. The smiles on the faces of these two despicable humans were actually very similar. He really wanted to beat them up. He recalled everything that had happened in the arena. It seemed to be the conspiracy of these two people. However, he had just entered the city and came to the arena by chance. In other words, how did the two of them decide on a plan in such a short time, cooperate with each other, and set up such a trap? He thought of the little flower demon. Was she just a bait? It didn't seem like it. He also thought of the messenger. Was the news leaked? It didn't seem to be the case. However, it was meaningless to think about these questions now. He just needed to catch them and interrogate them. Then, he would know where the news came from. He looked ferocious, and a murderous look flashed in his eyes. He took a step forward and slowly raised his right hand. Then, his expression changed drastically. He roared and covered his stomach, and a painful and ferocious look appeared in his eyes. Xie looked at Taoist White Snow and hissed, "That bowl of stinky tofu, there's something wrong with it." Taoist White Snow looked up to the sky and laughed loudly 3 times. He jumped 3 feet high and then cheekily clapped with Zhang Jianyuan to celebrate. His smile was very bright. "I may be the first Taoist to trick a demon to drink talisman water in front of everyone since the founding of my sect. This is enough for me to brag about for several years when I go back. Well, let's not talk about other things." He took out a large stack of talismans from his sleeve. "My friend, surrender." Chapter 131. Looking at the talismans that Taoist by Shui took out, Xie's expression changed. He sneered, "So, it's a Taoist from Jingyang Palace." Taoist by Shui hooked and pushed with his hands. Hundreds of talismans floated in the air. Then, like the autumn wind blowing the fallen leaves, they danced in the air and stuck to the walls on both sides of the street. Golden light flowed in every talisman. Taoist by Shui's robe and long beard fluttered. He said proudly, "Don't waste your energy. You drank the talisman water and lost the initiative. Now, you can't break through my barrage defense." Xie forcibly suppressed the pain in his stomach. He sneered, "Jingyang Palace, Jingyang Palace. Huh, that might not be the case." He suddenly let out a roar that sounded like a tiger, yet not a tiger. The skin on his forehead suddenly changed shape, and a ferocious horn actually grew out. Even though Zhang Jianyuan had put on a show with Taoist White Snow after weighing the pros and cons, he still thought that Xie was an evil person or an enemy of the Taoist White Snow. Even when he heard Xie say that he was a monster, he didn't really believe it. When he saw Xie grow a horn on the spot, he was shocked. F***CK, there's really a monster? But Taoist by Shui seemed to be even more shocked than him. The moment the Taoist saw the horn, his eyes flashed with great shock. "Horned tiger, why is there another one?" Hearing this, Xie let out a desolate and shrill laugh. "Yes, there's another one." Taoist by Shui pushed Zhang Jianyuan to the side and waved his hand. The talismans on both sides of the wall shone brightly. Dozens of talismans flew out from his sleeves and burned without fire. They burned into golden balls of light and intertwined in the air to form a binding array. He said urgently, "Surrender and come back with me. Your family is still waiting for you." "Family?" Xie gritted his teeth and said, but more of my family died tragically. If I don't avenge them, how can I face them in the future? Taoist by Shui said angrily. Avenge? Who are you going to avenge? The one who killed your parents was the Sky Demon. The Tianyuan War is over. Where are you going to avenge them? And why was he colluding with a bunch of demons? I don't know what you were planning, and I don't know what you want to do, but you have to know that if it was any other fellow cultivator who ran into you today instead of me, you might have been dead already. He took a step forward, and more talismans flew out from his sleeves. Listen to me. Give up resisting and come back with me. You know that I won't harm your life. At the very least, you have to see your only family. Xie was stunned for a moment. A gentle look flashed across his eyes. Is she doing well? It's much better than you think. That child is upright and upright. She is in charge of discipline in the mountain. She especially likes legalism. All the doctors and professors like her very much. Her classmates seem to be afraid of her or even annoyed by her, but they trust her very much. White Snow Taoist's expression also softened. He said lightly, if she knows that her brother is still alive, she will be very happy. It's not too late for you to turn back now. Xie revealed a conflicted expression, but he still slowly said, thank you for telling me about her. As long as she's happy, it's fine. As for turning back, he shook his head and said bleakly, I can't turn back anymore. White Snow Taoist saw that he was hesitating, so he struck while the iron was hot. Okay, if you have any questions or difficulties, I can... But the next moment, he narrowed his eyes and shouted. He flashed in front of Zhang Jinyuan, and the talismans around him gathered into a shield, which turned into a golden 8 trigrams plate. At the same time, the horn in front of Xie's forehead suddenly burst out a strong beam of light, which hit Zhang Jinyuan's direction. It fiercely collided with the talismans condensed by White Snow Taoist. With a loud explosion, a large number of talismans flew in all directions and burned to ashes. The terrifying shock wave set off billowing waves, blowing away the sand and stones. This was exactly what Xie wanted. He shook his head, and the beam of light from his horn swept to the side, destroying all the talismans on one side of the wall. Then, the demon soared into the sky, jumped over the wall, and escaped without a trace. White Snow Taoist was still in shock. His butt was kicked, and he fell to the ground like a wild goose falling from the sand. He jumped up like a salted fish and shouted angrily, What the hell are you doing? I just saved your life. Zhang Jinyuan pointed at his nose. Are you an idiot? I thought you were just pretending to be an idiot and wanted to beat him at his own game. I didn't expect you to really be fooled by him. Even I could see that there was a problem, and you didn't see it? Where did all the scheming go? White Snow Taoist was stunned, and a sad look appeared on his face. He shook his head and sighed. I just didn't expect that he would lie. I just didn't expect that the Horned Tiger would also know how to lie. The legendary Horned Tiger, who is strong, just loyal, and psychic, has actually become like this. His soul seems to have been devoured by hatred. He shook his head, turned around, and said to Zhang Jianyuan, Mother of Asterisker, thank you for today. I owe you a favor, and I will repay you generously in the future. I'm going to chase after the Horned Tiger. He remembers your appearance. Although the chances are small, we can't rule out that he will come and find trouble with you. Anyway, you have to be careful. I will arrest him as soon as possible. Zhang Jianyuan rolled his eyes. I knew it. Anything related to you is definitely not a good thing. I can't help you with this demon matter. You have to be careful. Okay, get lost. White Snow Taoist smiled. He drank the talisman water that I specially made. He can't run far. I'll chase after him now. Today's grudge will be repaid 100-fold. Xie engraved White Snow Taoist's appearance deeply in his mind. Of course, it was after disguising himself. As he ran, he thought about his next plan of action. He had already attracted the attention of the Taoist from Zhengyang Palace. Fortunately, the other party just happened to meet him and didn't know his mission, so there was no risk of him being exposed. He clutched his stomach and staggered into an alley to hide. The corner of his mouth revealed a Sunran sneer. Revenge? Who should I seek revenge from? Of course, I have a target for revenge. You don't know anything. The one who killed my parents was the sky demon from the outer realm? Ha! Stupid humans, living in lies and deceit. How sad. And turn back? What do you mean by turning back? Turning back would mean that, as a demon, he would have to accept the supervision of human beings and obey the moral values and rules of human beings. He would be like a pet raised by human beings, suppressing his nature as a demon, losing his self-awareness, and not even being allowed to take revenge. One day, I will make all of you arrogant and conceited humans pay the price for your arrogance. Then what should I do next? Should I continue to complete my mission, or should I find that fellow demon, or retreat? Siege was weighing the pros and cons suddenly. His body trembled slightly, and he stopped in his tracks. He slowly raised his head and looked in front of him as if he was facing a great enemy. A majestic figure blocked the entrance of the street. There was no hostile movement, but he could feel a strong aura and fierce, killing intent coming at him. He knew this person. Many people knew him. The thunderbow of the Imperial Army to break formation. He said slowly, "Who Shoshin? You actually dare to wander around under my nose. You have guts, little demon." Hushoshin spat the melon seed shell in his mouth to the side. "Tell me, do you want to lie down, or do you want me to help you?" Then he suddenly sniffed. "Wait, what did you eat?" Chapter 132. In the fishing immortal pavilion, Sun Lang, who was working on some sketches, suddenly raised his head. Zhang Yinluo, who was sewing a handkerchief, looked up and asked, "What's wrong?" The ranger waved his hand. "Nothing. Hu Shoshin is mobilizing the Imperial Army." "That's strange. As the leader of the Ranger Association, he still needs to go out and do missions?" Zhang Yinluo, on the other hand, wasn't as carefree as he was. She said seriously, "As a fierce general of Tian Yuan, Hu Huaishou is a valiant warrior with outstanding martial arts. Even he has to use his monarch weapon. Is there something going on? Should we go and take a look?" Sun Lang closed his eyes and listened carefully for a moment. Then he shook his head. "He's not dead. Don't worry about him. I'm not his babysitter. Do I have to go and take a look every time he's in a fight? I'm not going." Zhang Yinluo was still a little hesitant, but when she saw Sun Lang's indifferent expression, she felt relieved for some reason. However, the next moment the girl realized something. "How did you know that Hu Shoshin is mobilizing the Imperial Army?" Sun Lang opened his right hand and covered his face. He said in an extremely stupid tone, "Of course, it's because my consciousness is so strong that I can detect all the changes in the Imperial Army within 100 miles. Zhang Yinluo spat. "You're bluffing again. I only heard that the Imperial Astronomer is responsible for monitoring the changes in the Imperial Army. If you have this ability, this should be out of work." Instead of monitoring the Imperial Army, the Imperial Astronomer uses the banner of ensuring that the Imperial Army is not taken away by outsiders. But it's just a slogan. The Imperial Army has been around for hundreds of years. In these hundreds of years, many of the Imperial Army have disappeared due to various reasons. If the foreign devils and secret organizations could find something, they would have found it long ago. Sun Lang said with a smile. "As long as it doesn't attract the attention of the Imperial Court, and as long as it doesn't cause too much trouble, the Imperial Astronomer usually doesn't care. After all, there are at least 10,000 Imperial armies scattered around the world. How can the Imperial Astronomer keep an eye on them?" Zhang Yinluo mumbled. "Then what do they do all day? Drink tea and chat?" Of course not. On the surface, the Imperial Astronomer appears to be a low-ranking government office. But in private, it is the most important department of the Imperial Court because it bears the heavy responsibility of monitoring the Imperial Army. Sun Lang raised his brush and pointed at the Jinghong sword beside Zhang Yinluo. Of course, the Imperial Army here is not referring to this piece of junk that was mass-produced. It is referring to the powerful Imperial Army like the Broken Formation, the Sword Aura, and the Golden Fault Saber, which are not mass-produced. Or the battleship-type Imperial Army like the West River Moon, the Wang Hai Chao, and the Water Dragon Roar. The former are in the hands of skilled martial artists, and can cause endless turmoil in a province or a city. The latter can be considered a strategic force. If the empire wants long-term peace and stability, of course, it has to keep an eye on the top martial artists and powerful military forces of the country. The girl asked, in other words, if leader who uses the imperial army, he will be investigated by the imperial astronomer. It's not that exaggerated. After all, those who can be monitored are all important figures in the country. We can't go overboard, otherwise, everyone will be unhappy. Sun Lang spread out his hands and said, like just now, Hu Shoshin had nothing better to do, so he casually picked up his thunder bow and shot a few shots. Even if the imperial astronomer noticed it, they wouldn't care. After all, everyone here is a powerful martial artist. If they were questioned by the imperial astronomer for a casual fight, who wouldn't be happy? But if Hu Shoshin had just said, my enemy, the imperial astronomer might have come running over to ask you why you opened the big one. After all, that level of fierce battle is enough to attract the attention of the relevant departments. I see. That's good. Zhang Yinluo glanced at the imperial army beside him and heaved a sigh of relief. I thought you would be in trouble if the imperial astronomer found out that you used my imperial army. Sun Lang laughed. Mass-produced goods like yours won't catch the imperial astronomer's eye. If I had drawn Hu Shoshin's thunder bow, they would have been scared to death. You're bragging again. Zhang Yinluo rolled his eyes at him, then lowered his head and started sewing his handkerchief again. Sun Lang said shamelessly, Yinluo, do you have time to sew my underwear? Get lost. While the two were flirting, the battle in another part of Mingzhou City was coming to an end, or rather, it was over. On both sides of the dazzling battle bow, there were small side blades. When swung, it was also a strange weapon. Hu Shoshin turned the thunder bow and slashed down with the side blades. Thunder roared, forcing Xie Ji to dodge to the side. Then, Hu Shoshin raised his leg and kicked the monster away ruthlessly. The monster crashed into the wall and let out a loud bang. With a shake of his right hand, the battle bow in his hand turned into golden lightning and disappeared. Hu Shoshin said with a bored expression, You monster! Did you eat stinky tofu and get a stomachache? I thought you could at least let me shoot once. I didn't expect you to be so weak. Damn it. There aren't many people in Mingzhou City who can make me move my muscles. Guards! In response to his call, the sound of footsteps could be heard behind him. A few rangers appeared in a flash. Two of them stepped forward, drew their swords, and restrained Xie Ji. The other person bowed and asked, President, how should we deal with it? Do we need to deal with a monster? Hu Shoshin waved his hand and turned around. Chop it up and feed it to the dogs. Xie Ji's eyes narrowed. Just as he was about to speak, another ranger ran over and whispered something in Hu Shoshin's ear. Hu Shoshin was stunned. Then he smiled like Moses Roy and said to himself, I didn't expect Sun Lang to hook up with Chao Patao's sister. Interesting. He turned around to look at Xie Ji and said with a smile, So, you're here for that, little monster? Haha, boy, you're in big trouble. Then, Hu Huaisho waved his hand. Don't chop it up. Send it to the immortal fishing house and give it to Sun Lang as a toy. Don't let him think about how to scheme against me all day. Although he didn't know who Sun Lang was, from Hu Shoshin's expression and the ranger's eyes, being sent to Sun Lang seemed to be something worse than death. Xie Ji took a deep breath. I can't die. I have to take revenge at all costs. Today's experience, the conversation with Taoist White Snow, the memories of his loved ones, everything has awakened the fire of hatred in his heart. It made him make a decision. Although the time is not right, he can't care so much. Now, he has to carry out his revenge plan. Xie Ji thought. Wait a minute, he shouted. Before you punish me, we can talk. Hu Shoshin, now, ask your subordinates to leave. There are some things that you don't want them to know. Hu Shoshin chuckled. I don't want to listen to your bullsh *T. You'd better keep your words to yourself and talk to somebody else. He likes to chat. Xie Ji roared. I know what you've been wanting to know. What you want to know most as a hero of the Heaven's Origin Sector. Hu Shoshin's body shook. He turned around and glanced at Xie Ji. He waved his hand with great interest. You guys go away first. Sometimes, it's also a beautiful thing to watch the enemy struggle before death. The rangers stepped back and stayed far away. Hushoshin took out a handful of sunflower seeds. I'll give you 10 minutes. Now that you know that I retired from the Heaven's Origin battlefield, you should know what we're capable of. I don't need a cup of tea. I just need a word. Siege took a deep breath and said slowly, do you want to know what happened in the last battle of the Heaven's Origin sector in the Grand Desolate Mountain? The monster raised his head and looked at Hushoshin. He said calmly, I do. Siege felt a sharp pain in his throat. A shadow flashed in front of him, and Hushoshin had already lifted him up by his neck and smashed him into the wall. Siege's blood was boiling, his soul was shaking, and his body was shaking nonstop. Every inch of his skin seemed to be flowing with terrifying lightning. Hushoshin said coldly, you know? Damn it. Who do you think you are? Are those your last words? It's true. In the past 2 years, you must have done everything possible to find out the truth of the battle at the Great Desolate Mountain, because there are too many mysteries and too many things you want to know. You must have done a lot of hard work, but the Empire has sealed off all information related to this matter with unprecedented decisiveness. There are very few people who survived back then, and the Empire has kept their identities a secret. With your status and position, you don't have the right to ask those who know the truth, do you? Siege said with difficulty, but quickly, but there is no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. Some things, as long as they are done, will leave traces in this world. Hushoshin was silent for a moment. He loosened his grip on Siege's neck and said, go on. I'm a horned tiger. I'm a monster. Back then, my parents' clan participated in the last battle, and they all died. When he mentioned the past, there seemed to be a flame burning in his eyes, but Siege's tone was terrifyingly calm. At that time, I had just come of age. Relying on my bloodline and the talent of my clan, I witnessed the scene that my family saw before their lives ended. After he finished, he pressed Hushoshin's arm and opened his eyes wide. He looked at the human in front of him without backing down. It's your turn. Hushoshin was silent for a moment. You want a slim chance of survival for yourself. If I find out that you are lying to me, believe me, you don't want to know what will happen to you. He let go of his hand, and Siege fell to the ground weakly. He covered his neck and took a few deep breaths. His eyes, which were covered by his messy hair, revealed a cold smile. Hushoshin reached out and beckoned to the rangers who were waiting in the distance. The mission is over. You can go back. I alone will be enough to deal with the rest. The rangers looked at each other. One of them hesitated and said, we don't need to send him to the immortal fishing house. No. Hushoshin hesitated for a moment and said calmly, keep this a secret. Don't tell anyone, understand? Chapter 133. So, you had a good meal and then came back? Dongfang Exine blushed and turned her head to the side in embarrassment. Zhu Ying, however, did not realize the key point of the problem. Her eyes flashed as she shouted, Brother Sun Lang, the stinky tofu is delicious. Sun Lang said indifferently, Yin Luo, go and give her some farm manure. Zhang Yin Luo was very cooperative this time. She got up with a straight face and said, okay, I'll go now. Zhu Ying still didn't know what farm manure was. She pulled the sleeve of the girl next to her and asked, Sister Exen, what is farm manure? Dongfang Exen curled her lips and whispered, poop. Don't. Zhu Ying flew forward and hit Zhang Yinluo with the ball. He hugged Zhang Yinluo tightly and said, Sister Yinluo, let's talk nicely. Let's talk. So, Sun Lang sighed. Last night, I told you to do something, but you ate stinky tofu for a long time and didn't even come back for lunch. Yinluo had painstakingly prepared this meal, but the two of you were nowhere to be seen. And the most important thing was, in order to not make her too sad, I had no choice but to eat all the food she made. The ranger's eyes became gloomy and terrifying. So, do you have anything to say? Zhu Ying realized the problem and looked apologetic. It's all my fault for being greedy. Sister Yinluo, I'm sorry. Why don't you pull on my petals to vent your anger? Petals. Sun Lang's expression changed. The petals couldn't be pulled out, but the fluff on the petals could. Well, now is not the time to use imagination. At this time, Dongfang Xin pulled Zhu Ying over and protected the little flower demon behind her like a little sister. Don't blame Zhu Ying, because something unpredictable happened halfway. That Taoist seems to have met an enemy. Then, he joined forces with Zhang Jianyuan to trick that enemy. Then, he tricked that enemy away. He probably wanted to trick that guy into a small alley and beat him up. Her words were a mess, and Sun Lang did not understand for a moment. Just as he was about to ask Dongfang Xin to explain in detail, a blacksmith's shout came from outside. Hero's son, a Taoist is looking for you. Sun Lang and Zhang Yinluo looked at each other. Zhang Yinluo stood up and said, "It should be Taoist by Shui. You go and receive him. As for me," she stretched out her hands, one in each hand, and grabbed the collars of the two girls. Revealing a gentle and calm smile, she said word by word, "Follow me to brush your teeth." Even Dongfang Xin, who usually did not get along with Zhang Yinluo, was scared by this gentle smile. The two girls cast a pleading look at Sun Lang, but the ranger turned a blind eye and stepped out of the door. The person who came was really Taoist by Shui. He was standing in front of the backyard at the moment, waiting cautiously. After seeing Sun Lang, he was happy at first, and then, ugh. Sun Lang sighed and put on a gas mask. "Is this okay?" The Taoist priest first glanced at him secretly, then showed a blushing face. He took a few steps forward and said, "Hero's son, this poor Taoist is guilty. This poor Taoist is guilty. I have been entrusted by Hero's son, but I have caused trouble for you." When Sun Lang heard this, his eyes widened and he said in surprise, "What? Is there fun?" "It's trouble." Taoist by Shui sighed and began to explain. "This morning, according to the agreement, this poor Taoist followed the two girls and observed the daily behavior and habits of the flower demon Zhu Ying. I didn't expect the two girls to be so playful that they actually went to the territory of the donkey Zhang Jianyuan. Think about it. Is the food made by the bastard Zhang Jianyuan edible? This poor Taoist originally wanted to stop the two girls, but I didn't expect that I would find a demon." He gave a general account of what had happened today, especially describing how, with Zhang Jianyuan's cooperation, he tricked the demon into drinking the talisman water and then led him to a small alley to give him a good beating. What a talent! What a talent! Sun Lang was amazed and reached out to pat Taoist by Shui on the shoulder. "This kind of trick, even if it was me, I can't do it better. Taoist priest, you really can't judge a book by its cover. Your praise really doesn't make me happy." Taoist by Shui said with annoyance, "But I was fooled by the demon and let him escape in the chaos. I originally thought that he couldn't run far after drinking the talisman water, but when I chased him for a long time, I didn't find the demon's trace. I don't know what kind of escape method he used, and he just escaped." He heaved a heavy sigh and said, "Alas, I can't believe that things have turned out like this. That demon is most likely here for Zhu Ying. However, I have schemed against him and attacked him along the way. He will definitely hold a grudge against me and wait for an opportunity to take revenge. Although I'm not afraid of his means, this time Zhang Jianyuan helped me. Maybe he will also be hated by the demon. This matter happened because of me. How can I watch him be hurt by the demon? But when I was protecting Zhang Jianyuan, the demon found here, took Zhu Ying away, and hurt you and Miss Zhang. I can't absolve myself from the blame. Really, isn't that good?" Sun Lang looked happy and waved his hand. "You just go and protect Zhang Jianyuan. Don't worry about me here. I can handle it myself." "How can I do that?" Taoist by Shui shook his head and said, "Hero's son, I don't look down on you, but the demon is not like the warriors. He has all kinds of magic that we don't know. If we're caught off guard, it's easy to fall into his trap. Now, I'd better write a letter to my sect and ask them to send masters, and then think of a way to set a trap and capture the demon. How boring. I haven't seen a real demon for 2 years." Sun Lang blinked. Although he could tell Taoist by Shui that he was very good at fighting, such as waving his hand to shoot out sharp sword chi, patting Daoist by a shui on the shoulder to let him feel the vigorous internal chi in his body. This was not the real pretentious. The real way to act tough was to wait until the very end, when everyone was at their wits' end and the villain was about to win. Only then would you make an earth-shattering move. While talking and laughing, you would turn the enemy into ashes. That was how it should be. So he thought for a moment and directly used shield. It doesn't matter. I can ask someone to help. Do you know who Shoshin, Tianyuan? Who Shoshin? He pondered and asked White Snow Taoist. Do you still remember what time it was when you fought with the demon? Daoist by Shui thought for a moment and said, let me recall the position of the sun at that time, the direction of the shadow of the flagpole. Well, let me calculate. He quickly reported the exact time of the meeting. Then Sun Lang asked again, do you know where Zhang Jinyuan's arena is? How far is it from the Rangers Guild? Daoist by Shui answered quickly this time. Loyalty Tower is the headquarters of the Rangers Guild in Mingzhou. Zhang Jinyuan's arena is not far from the Rangers Guild. Oh, King Hu Shoshin. How dare he steal my monster? Sun Lang shrugged. This morning, Hu Shoshin had used the Imperial Army to break the formation at this time. Although he had only shot a few arrows casually, Sun Lang had still sensed it. At that time, he had said that as the head of the Rangers Guild, Hu Shoshin had actually gone out to do a mission in person. It turned out that he had seen a demon, and in his excitement, he had wanted to stretch his body a little. Old Hu didn't know how to control his strength, and his target was a demon, so it was impossible to expect him to show mercy. At this moment, the demon had probably been chopped up and fed to the dogs by him. Sun Lang shook his head and smiled. He was thinking about how to explain this to Daoist by Shui when he heard him say, there's no time to lose. I'll go back and write a letter. Don't worry, hero son, I'll take care of this matter to the end. To tell you the truth, I have some history with that horned tiger, and I don't want to see it die like this. Hearing this, the ranger's expression changed slightly. His eyes became dazed, as if he had remembered something. He calmly repeated the unfamiliar name. Horned tiger? Chapter 134. Sun Lang repeated this long-lost name as if he was sleep-talking. Horned tiger. Taoist by Shui thought he was interested in this kind of monster. It's a kind of beast with a single horn and looks like a qilin. Its whole body is covered with thick and long hair. It has high intelligence and can understand human speech and people's hearts. Sun Lang interrupted him and said lightly, isn't the horned tiger extinct? How do you know? Taoist by Shui looked at Sun Lang in surprise and nodded. Indeed, in the past, there were some monsters in the demon clan who were inclined to join hands with humans to fight against the sky demon and made corresponding contributions. Legend has it that the Horned Tiger clan, which was neutral, loyal, and understood human nature, was a typical representative. Many insiders thought that the last Horned Tiger clan in the Divine Land had been destroyed in the Great Desolate Mountain in the final battle of Tianyuan. But many people didn't know that at that time, we secretly protected the flesh and blood of the Horned Tiger clan and brought her back to the cave residence we built for the Demon clan. We took good care of and taught her. I see. Sun Lang's eyes moved slightly. So the Horned Tiger that caused trouble this time, was that one? No. The one we are protecting and teaching is a female Horned Tiger. Her name is Xie Wei, and she has perfectly inherited the loyal and brave nature of the Horned Tigers. She is a very, very good child, and we all like her very much. Taoist by Shui's eyes flashed with a trace of gentleness. He sighed and said, so I made a mistake and let the Horned Tiger run away. After all, he was not only the second Horned Tiger left in the world, but also Xie Wei's lost brother. It seems that the Horned Tiger clan made a double insurance. They entrusted their little daughter to us, and then entrusted their son to someone of the same clan. Now, Xie Wei grew up day by day and became brave and upright, the embodiment of justice. Her brother, however, lost himself in hatred and degenerated into a demon. Hatred. Sun Lang chewed on this word, and a strange light flashed in his eyes. What is a hate? I asked him the same question. His parents died in the battle in the Great Desolate Mountain. in the hands of the sky demon. But the war of heaven's origin had already ended, and all the sky demons were gone. Where could he seek revenge? Taoist White Snow sighed softly. The logical explanation is that he has shifted the target of his hatred to humans. After all, his family participated in the war largely because of the humans' invitation and influence. Sun Lang coldly said, "Idiot." Taoist White Snow sighed. For human beings, such behavior and thoughts are certainly unreasonable, but for monsters, alas, it's useless to talk about it now. If Xiaowei knows that his brother has become like this, I don't know how sad he will be. Now that I've encountered this matter, I have to take care of it to the end. Taoist White Snow sneered. I want to capture him alive and reunite him with his sister. I can't let him degenerate like this. For now, I have to write a letter back to my sect and ask for help. Sun Lang coldly said, but the enemy is in the dark and you are in the light. You don't even know whether this monster is hiding in the dark, waiting for the right time, or has already escaped. Do you want to waste time here with the masters of your sect? I think that as a demon, he must be much more patient than you. He can leave Mingzhou for a few months. When your patience is exhausted and your vigilance is relaxed, he can come back to take revenge on Zhang Jianyuan and kidnap Zhuing. Can you prevent that? I've already considered this problem. A firm look appeared in Taoist by Shui's eyes. For now, we can only call Xiaowei over. That child is very strong and very sensible. She also wants to see her brother. It is said that the Horned Tiger clan can sense each other through their bloodline. If so, the chances of catching that Horned Tiger will greatly increase. But that Horned Tiger was very likely to have been chopped into pieces by Hu Shouxin. Taoist White Snow had already planned to ask for help, and he also wanted to call his relatives. If he told them about Hu Shouxin at this time, he was afraid that it would cause trouble for old Hu. Besides, Horned Tiger. Forget it. It's up to you. Gather a large group of people and wander around Mingzhou City like headless flies to find a monster that can't be more dead. Suddenly, Sun Lang felt a burst of irritation. Since he knew that the demon was a Horned Tiger, his interest in getting involved in this matter had disappeared without a trace. As long as one was still alive in this world, as long as one was still walking in this world, there would be countless coincidences and accidents that would force one to recall the past and recall some things that one did not want to recall. For a moment, he was no longer interested in talking to Taoist White Snow. The Taoist White Snow was so worried and full of worries that he did not notice Sun Lang's abnormality. After a few words of advice, he hurriedly left. In the following period of time, he would be the busiest one. Sun Lang stood where he was and watched the Taoist White Snow walk into the front building. He just stood there, motionless, as if he was thinking about something. Why didn't you invite the Taoist White Snow in? Why didn't you send him off? Zhang Yinluo's voice came from behind. What happened? Sun Lang came to his senses, smiled faintly, and then told the girl what had happened. The girl was stunned. She did not expect that such a complicated thing would happen when she was embroidering the handkerchief in the morning. She was surprised, and a trace of fear flashed in her eyes. These two girls, if the Taoist White Snow didn't follow them, Zhu Ying would have been taken away by the demon No. Sun Lang smiled. Zhu Ying's body is still here. What's the use of it taking away an incarnation? Zhu Ying can dissipate the incarnation and return to his body at any time. As for Dongfang Xian, Chao Patao only has one sister. Although he is usually a little strict, he treasures her very much. You don't know how many life-saving things this girl has with her. After the accident, I will be the first to notice it and then rush over. The demon will have no chance. Well, Master Sun's martial arts are excellent. I made a fuss about nothing. Okay. Zhang Yinluo rolled his eyes at him. After such a thing happened, aren't you afraid at all? Really? In the next few days, let's stay in the immortal fishing house until the Taoist White Snow and the others solve this matter and catch the Horned Tiger. Sun Lang glanced at the girl, who was obviously a little nervous under her nonchalant appearance. The paladin smiled and said, "Are you afraid again? Who said so?" Zhang Yinluo cried out fiercely. I'm I am not afraid of the demon. I have the Imperial army at hand. If it dares to come, I will kill it." The paladin began to applaud. "Inluo, you are so brave. Stay at home to protect Dongfang, Xin, and Zhuing. I will go out to hunt down the demon. Don't go." Zhang Yinluo roared subconsciously, and then looked at Sun Lang's teasing eyes and stammered, That is a demon, so let's leave it to the professionals like the Taoist White Snow to deal with it. No matter how strong your martial arts are, you will be at a disadvantage when you encounter a demon with strange abilities. So we should stay together, so that we can take care of each other. What are you laughing at? I am concerned about you. Don't be ungrateful. What if you are injured? What if you are killed by the demon?" Zhang Yinluo murmured. "Demon, do you want to ask for help from home? Father should know some masters." "Hey, don't laugh. Aren't you familiar with Hu Huaisho? Go to the Paladin Guild to ask for some help." "Hey, Hu Huaisho?" She seemed to notice something and suddenly looked up. Her eyes became sharp. "This morning, you said that Hu Huaisho was using the Thunderbow. Where did he use it?" Sun Lang whistled and turned his head as if nothing had happened. "I am not the Ting instrument of the Imperial Astronomer. How can I know so clearly? I've already asked when I was supervising the two girls to brush their teeth and rinse their mouths. The time matches. The location of the arena is also near the Paladin Guild. So, Hu Huaisho is likely to have found the demon by chance when watching the food tasting. The reason why the Taoist White Snow couldn't find the fleeing horned tiger is probably that Hu Huaisho was excited to see it. He interfered and intercepted the fleeing horned tiger. With his strength and ability, he should be able to kill that fiendish demon before Taoist White Snow arrives, right?" Zhang Yinluo looked as if there was only one truth on her face. She stared coldly at Sun Lang. "Even I can think of it. You're even more familiar with Hu Huaisho. It's impossible that you didn't think of it." Her eyes became more and more sinister. "You clearly know that the horned tiger is likely to have been defeated by Hu Huaisho, but you still pretend to be stupid to scare me." Sun Lang saw that he couldn't hide it from her and sighed. "Ah, Yinluo, your thoughts and ideas are exactly the same as mine. We really look like husband and wife. Husband your head." Zhang Yinluo glared at Sun Lang fiercely and said angrily, "Did you tell the Taoist White Snow about this?" "No." Sun Lang shrugged. "Is it really good to let this group of demon protection organizations know that Hu Shoshin casually killed an endangered horned tiger? And that horned tiger has a sister. Isn't this making things difficult for old Hu? Let me tell you, that guy has a wife and a child. His wife is already 8 months pregnant. He will never allow any accidents to happen. If that female horned tiger were to find out about this and express her anger and hatred, then old Hu would definitely disregard everything and directly draw his Thunderbow to kill her. At that time, there would definitely be a further conflict between him and Taoist White Snow and his little friend from his sect." Zhang Yinluo sighed. "That's true. Then what should we do? And has Hu Huaisho already killed that horned tiger? With his temperament, he has probably already killed him. After all, people who have survived the battlefield are not even careless when it comes to killing people, much less killing demons," Sun Lang said indifferently. "So let's just gloss over this matter." "Wait." Zhang Yinluo looked at Sun Lang carefully. "Is there something on your mind?" Sun Lang was stunned for a moment. "Why do you say that?" "Because the jokes and vulgarities you used to make fun of me just now weren't vulgar enough." Zhang Yinluo squinted at him and said, "Besides, you're someone who likes to join in the fun and make a big fuss. You should be very happy when you encounter such a thing. Why are you so listless now? You seem to be hesitating now. What are you hesitating about?" Sun Lang blinked. Okay, stop. You don't have to make up some strange words to fool me. Anyway, it's something that you can't let me know, right?" Zhang Yinluo shook his head. "Forget it. If you don't want me to know, then I won't ask. Although I don't know what you want to do, and I don't know what you're hesitating about. Sometimes it's better not to let yourself regret. After all, if you can't do something when you don't have the ability, you can think of it as regret in the future. But if you don't do it when you have the ability, when you think of it in the future, what will it be?" Zhang Yinluo looked at Sun Lang, shook his head, and then turned to leave. I'll continue to supervise those two girls. Really, after eating so much stinky tofu, they don't even think it stinks so, right? She walked a few steps and then turned back. If you go out, remember to come back for dinner at night. Chapter 135. Zhongyi Tower, headquarters of the Ranger Guild in Mingzhou. Hu Shouxin was still sitting in front of his large desk, elegantly sipping his tea. Hu Huaisho raised his head and glanced at Sun Lang. Without batting an eyelid, he asked, "Has your firm been renovated? Or are you running short of money recently? So, you want to come to me for a few missions? Let me put it bluntly, we are competitors now. Don't even think about it." Sun Lang rolled his eyes. "Come on, if I'm short of money, I can rob, kidnap, or live off a woman. If it doesn't work, I can work as a cowherd in the Elephant Tavern and get money from a group of sows. It's much faster than doing missions. But speaking of which, do you have any missions similar to the previous one recently?" He thought for a moment and organized his words. "Is it the kind of mission that allows me to pick up a girl from the main line of the Marquis Mansion, who has an enormous chest, is indestructible, and occasionally cute? She is a former constable whose wife has skyrocketed recently. She has recently acquired magic tools and supernatural abilities, is rich, and provides long-term support for a woman. She is very clever and sensible, and she has her own pet." Even though Hu Shouxin was married and had a family, and even had a child who could buy soy sauce, as a man, he still felt angry when he heard such sarcastic words. "No, get lost." "So you do?" Sun Lang dug his ears. "I heard that this is a recent routine. For example, when faced with a certain author who is kind, likes to save money for his readers, updates regularly, and doesn't like to update at all, when he shamelessly asks for monthly votes, although he will say no, get lost, and such heartless words, he will still honestly cast a vote filled with love. Old Hu, have you also taken the path of the kind camps Tsundra recently? I don't know what you're talking about, and I instinctively feel that it is very dangerous, so I don't want to know at all," Hu Shouxin said with a complicated expression. "So, you came to me just to say this nonsense?" "No," Sun Lang said with a smile. "I came to care about you. You used the Thunderbow today? Who was killed by you?" "A horned tiger." Hu Shouxin took a sip of tea as if nothing had happened. "Today there was a smelly tofu tasting event nearby. I took a few glances and actually found a monster. To be honest, I don't have much prejudice against monsters. The Divine Prefecture is a flourishing place for humans. As long as they are monsters with their tails between their legs, in my eyes, they're no different from tigers and leopards in the mountains. As long as they don't eat humans, I won't care. However, there was a Taoist priest from Xingyang Palace who seemed to want to scheme against this demon, but perhaps because of his lack of ability, he almost let it escape. So I was moved and helped him deal with the aftermath." Hu Shouxin took a sip of tea and pursed his lips. "I didn't expect him to be so weak. I killed him with just a few hits. How boring. It's actually a horned tiger." Sun Lang was stunned for a moment. Then, he exclaimed in all seriousness, "This is a national-level endangered and protected animal. A few hundred years later, it's probably enough to get you shot twice. It's just a demon. So what if I killed it? Is there some hidden reason?" Hu Shouxin asked. "You know me. We are all people who came from the battlefield. What's there to talk about with a demon? Don't forget, I hated cooperating with that group of demons. Those beasts are capricious and will never be of the same mind as us humans. They formed an alliance with us because they had no other choice. After these 2 years of war, the world is at peace. You just wait and see. They will soon make a big move for you to see. That's a horned tiger." Sun Lang sighed. "You killed it just like that? Where's the corpse?" "I found it disgusting. I'll let my subordinates chop it up and feed it to the dogs. You know, I don't have the habit of collecting trophies. I have a wife and children at home. I'm afraid of scaring them." Hu Shouxin asked, "What do you want the corpse for?" "The horn," Sun Lang said seriously. "That's the horn of a horned tiger. Legend has it that it can distinguish between right and wrong, judge good and evil, and see through people's hearts. It must have magical powers. Think about it. The unicorn in Western mythology, its horn has the effect of purifying and detoxifying. It can easily make the nuclear wastewater reach drinking standards. This Eastern unicorn has to be a little stronger than it. He sighed. Tell me, if this horn of a horned tiger is made into a Mr. Horn, it must be an ancient-level legendary item with a lot of magical attributes and terrifying legendary power. Hushoshin pressed his temples and was speechless. Why don't I ask someone to help you look for it? No need. It's probably stained with blood. Sun Lang seemed to have lost interest. He shook his head and stood up. If that's the case, then I'll leave. He stood up and waved his hand, intending to leave. Hushoshin took a sip of tea and suddenly asked casually, I suddenly remember. Among the demons that cooperated with us, were there a few horned tigers? Sun Lang frowned. I don't know. What does it have to do with me? Hushoshin was stunned for a moment. Then he shook his head and smiled. You. When the past of Tianyuan was mentioned, except for a few old friends, any topic would arouse Sun Lang's disgust and coldness. Hushoshin knew that he had said something wrong and raised his teacup. Okay, don't be so angry. Old Hu, I'll punish myself with a cup, okay? You brat. Sun Lang snorted and left his office, leaving behind a sentence. I'm leaving. Hearing the sound of him walking down the stairs, the smile on Hushoshin's face gradually disappeared. His expression became serious, and he said to himself, You don't know? But that horned tiger said that his parents all died in the battle in the Great Desolate Mountain. You're almost the only survivor of that battle, and you fought from the beginning to the end and survived in the end. At that time, there were no demons in the army that participated in the battle. How could you not know? He gently squeezed the cup in his hand, the scalding tea burning his palm. Hushoshin ignored the piercing pain from his hand and said indifferently, Sorry, you're not willing to tell me. I can only think of a way myself. I won't let you hide all your secrets in your heart and then face them yourself from the beginning to the end. I won't sit by and do nothing anymore. And Sun Lang, who had left the Loyalty Tower, stood under that flamboyant horizontal board. His indifferent expression also became slightly serious. You big stick, Hu, you don't seem to be very honest. Upstairs and downstairs, inside and outside the room, separated by a wall. They were once close comrades who fought side by side in life and death. But now they each had their own thoughts, guessing and doubting each other. Chapter 136. After asking a few passers-by for directions, Sun Lang came to the place where the embroidery hall held its arena in the morning. It seemed that although there was a small episode in the middle, the event was still an unprecedented success. This could be seen from the excited discussions and explanations of the passers-by on the road. Zhang Jianyuan was really growing up slowly. Sun Lang recalled the details of the passers-by's explanations and nodded repeatedly. He had learned how to put on a show, hire internet water army, and guide the direction of public opinion. If he learned how to do charity one day, it would be a small success. Then he thought of Taoist by Shui. In just a few days, this Taoist by Shui, who was very talkative, had formed a deep friendship with the black-hearted capitalist. Just this morning, the two of them cooperated very tacitly and gradually formed the embryonic form of good friends. While the so-called love and hate, the key point was that the power could be balanced and could be maintained in a stalemate. And Taoist by Shui was now in a disadvantageous position. So, should I enlighten Taoist by Shui at the right time? Guide him to establish a sickle sect or something? He paced back and forth in the field as his thoughts ran wild. Taoist by Shui said that he had pretended to be poisoned and cooperated with Zhang Jianyuan to trick the horned tiger. They also tricked the demon into a small alley. At that time, the crowd was furious, so it was naturally impossible to pass through the crowd. Otherwise, the horned tiger would be beaten. In other words, the direction they left the field should be backstage. Yes, there were fewer people here, and there was a small alley. He walked in the direction of the backstage, walked down the steps, and walked along the small road behind. This place was very close to the arena. Firstly, the Taoist wanted to keep it a secret. Secondly, he didn't want to involve civilians, so naturally he had to stay away. Moreover, he would definitely choose a remote place to make a move in order to avoid being seen by witnesses and causing more trouble. Therefore, after comprehensive consideration, they should choose this path. He took a wrong turn midway, so he went back the way he came and chose another path. Sun Lang turned a corner, looked up, and smiled. There were some burnt ashes on the ground. On one side of the wall, there were scattered talismans, and on the other side, there was a burn mark. There were messy marks on the ground. It could be seen that the final confrontation between Taoist by Shui and the Horned Tiger was here. This was where the Horned Tiger was, and that was where Zhang Jianyuan and Taoist by Shui were. At this time, the Horned Tiger had been poisoned. The talisman water it had made it suffer great pain, and its combat power had been reduced. Taoist by Shui had sealed the walls on both sides with talismans and set up an inescapable trap. He felt that he had a great advantage, so he wanted to end the battle without any injuries. So he used his ability skill to persuade the Horned Tiger to surrender. However, he had the talent of annoying mouth, so his eloquent skill was reduced by 20. Moreover, as a Taoist, his charm was not enough. Previously, he pretended to be crazy and cooperated with Zhang Jianyuan, triggering this soaring demon, slaying demon event. His favorability in the Horned Tiger's heart was further reduced, so he failed the eloquence test and failed to persuade him. Not only that, he was also counterattacked by the Horned Tiger. Looks like the Horned Tiger pretended to flatter him to make Taoist by Shui lose his vigilance, and then attacked him when he was unprepared. No matter how stupid this Taoist is, he is still a Taoist from Zhengyang Palace. His professional skills are excellent. If the Horned Tiger wanted to distract him, he must have attacked where he had to save him. His target was Zhang Jianyuan, so Taoist by Shui had no choice but to save him. Sun Lang looked at the scorched and mottled wall, gathering demonic power at one point, strengthening it with the horn, and then shooting out a blazing light beam. A bunch of idiots, third-generation idiots. Coming and going, they only know this one trick. As a unicorn, they can't even activate the destruction mode. He leaped up and jumped on top of the wall, looking around. The Horned Tiger broke the talisman on this side of the wall, so it must have escaped from here. Theoretically speaking, Taoist by Shui had been dealing with demons all year round, so it should have been easy for him to catch a Horned Tiger that drank talisman water and was weak. The reason why he didn't catch it was most likely because Sticku interfered and stole his kill. Then, he jumped down from the wall, focused his mind, and sensed the traces left by the Imperial Army when they broke through the formation. A few hours had passed since the great battle in the morning, and the traces left by the thunder bow had become very faint and difficult to detect. However, Sun Lang analyzed the direction of the Horned Tiger's escape while using his perception as a reference. He was still approaching the final battlefield at a relatively fast speed. Then it should be here. After the Horned Tiger fled here, it met Hu Shou-Shin, who was already waiting in front. He walked forward along the alley, observing the traces on the ground while reconstructing the scene at that time. The Horned Tiger tried to break through, but it should have known Hu Shou-Shin and his Imperial Army. It made a judgment based on its shallow life experience and felt that it must close the distance when fighting with Archer. Then it was natural that it was hit in the face. Let me take a look. Hu Shou-Shin first shot 2 arrows in a row, forming a net of electricity to block the Horned Tiger's escape route, and then directly went up to meet it. He came in front of a wall, looked at the mottled wall dust on the ground and the cracks on the wall, and clicked his tongue twice. What a powerful punch. If the Horned Tiger wasn't a demon, its stomach would have been punched through by this punch. But in the next moment, his expression changed. He reached out his hand, touched the wall, and squinted his eyes, looking carefully for a moment. Something was not right. The marks on the wall were not caused by one collision, but 2. And the second collision did not seem to be caused by a punch, but more like choked by the neck, lifted up, and then hit the wall. Why would they do that? To finish it off? It didn't seem like it. If Mr. Hu wanted to finish it off, it would only be a matter of an arrow. Choking the neck, lifting the enemy, and then hitting the wall would not cause much damage. Rather than saying that it was to kill the enemy, it was to cause psychological shock and pressure to the enemy. So, was he trying to extort a confession? What was he trying to extort? Most importantly, you said that the horned tiger was killed by you, and that it died after a few hits. Sun Lang squatted down and observed the traces on the ground. Then, he shook his head and laughed. But there's no smell of blood here, and no living creature died. More importantly, there's a problem with your description. You've never seen a horned tiger die before. He stood up and muttered to himself. So, of course, you don't know what happens when a horned tiger dies. If you really killed this horned tiger, you would definitely mention how this guy died. Chop it up and feed it to the dogs? Oomph. I even specifically asked about the horned tiger. You really don't know? Then here's the problem. Sun Lang stretched and said softly, Mr. Hu, why did you lie to me? Chapter 137. If he found out that Hu Shoshin was lying, what should he do? Of course, he should go straight to his door, confront, ridicule, explain, and even interrogate him. What do you want to do, old man? If he didn't answer, he would beat him. If he continued to lie, he would beat him again. If he refused to cooperate, he would continue to beat him. However, gone out? Sun Lang blinked and said resentfully, Damn it, he ran fast. When Sun Lang returned to Zhongli Tower aggressively and went straight upstairs to find Hu Shoshin, he was stopped by the ranger in charge and told that Hu Huaisho had also left Zhongli Tower after Sun Lang had just left. The ranger knew about the friendship between Old Hu and Sun Lang and thought that they were doing something again. He laughed and said, Brother, the leader is obviously hiding from you. It's useless to wait in Zhongli Tower. It's better to go directly to his house and block him. Sun Lang smiled and left. After he went out, he smacked his lips. Hu Shoshin's run just proved that he had a guilty conscience. He didn't know what he was hiding from him, but he disappeared without a trace. Sun Lang couldn't do anything to him. Since ancient times, there were no more than 3 main ways to get something out of a man. First, they would torture and interrogate him. Second, they would find some gays to gang rape him. Third, they would use his family to threaten him. Sun Lang and Old Hu were acquaintances, and they were also fellow soldiers on the battlefield. Naturally, he was embarrassed to make an example out of his family, so he could only use the first 2 methods. But this grandson ran away without a trace, so he was embarrassed. Sun Lang looked back at Zhongli Tower. He wanted to set a fire and throw some food inside, but he was quite familiar with the rangers in the past month or 2. He was really embarrassed to let them see flowing before fire. Besides, if Hu Shoshin didn't want to show up, even if he turned the Ranger Guild upside down, he wouldn't be able to find Stick Hu. At that moment, he didn't have any ideas. After thinking for a while, he decided to give up. TSK. In the end, even if that horned tiger was F***ed by Old Hu, it has nothing to do with me. I've already done my best. You can only blame your bad luck. Who asked you to become a demon? Do I have to fight or quarrel with Old Hu for a demon like you? I don't know you anything. As he muttered to himself, he suddenly paused for a moment. Then he laughed. That's right. I don't know you anything. I don't know you anything at all. So, your life and death has nothing to do with me. At the end of the day, I was just bewitched by the sudden burst of strength from a big-breasted messenger of justice. Out of a moment of kindness, I came out to meddle in other people's business. Actually, I have nothing much to say to your Horned Tiger clan. If you're dead, then you're dead. It doesn't matter if you die. In a small, remote courtyard, Xieji looked at Hu Shoshin, who had pushed open the door and entered. He smiled faintly. Why did General Hu come back? Hu Shoshin didn't seem to be in a good mood. He glanced at him indifferently. As a prisoner, don't ask about things that you shouldn't ask. Little demon, we have a lot of time to kill. Are you going to obediently tell me yourself? Or do I have to ask you slowly? I haven't fought for 2 years. The skills I learned in the army are also a little rusty. Why don't I let you experience the methods of the old soldiers of Tianyuan first? Xieji laughed. Don't scare me anymore, General Hu. Demons and humans are different. We're both smart people. Let's not beat around the bush. I know that you're very interested in the secret in my heart. I know the value of this secret. I know the importance of this secret. I also know that in order to obtain this secret, you're almost willing to do anything. So, before I reveal this secret, you definitely won't let me die, right? That's right, Hu Shoshin said coldly. But I won't let you live too comfortably. First of all, you have to understand one thing, General Hu. Xie said slowly. I'm willing to exchange this information in order to save my own life. So this is a deal. The prerequisite for a deal to be reached is that both sides have to be sincere. General Hu, the sincerity I want is very simple. That is to save my life. Hu Shoshin said indifferently. Tell me what I want to know, and you can live. You're still saying this at this time. Aren't you looking down on me too much? Xie laughed. That secret is very important. If I tell you, how can I still live? You'll immediately kill me to silence me. That depends on how important your secret is, Hu Shoshin said coldly. But at least I'll let you die without pain. This is something I can do. Pain? Is there any pain in this world that could be compared to seeing almost all of your family members die tragically? Every night, I'll dream of that scene. The fragments of the blood and screams, the killing and madness, the pain and powerlessness, they gnaw at my soul all the time. Xieji's tone was calm, but his eyes were shining with boiling flames. General Hu, I'll be frank. I'm a monster. Monsters are different from humans. The difference between monsters and humans is that even if you break my 4 limbs, pierce through my shoulder blades, and break all of my tendons. He looked at Hu Shoshin and said calmly, I can't be sure if I still have a way to kill myself. So this is a deal. I'm willing to exchange this secret in order to live. If I find out that you're not sincere, if I find out that the final outcome is still death, then I'll definitely not let you get this secret. General Hu, do you understand what I'm saying? Hu Shoshin's eyes gradually turned cold. As a fierce general who had been through hundreds of battles, his murderous aura turned into a solid substance, rolling up a gust of wind in the room. However, Xieji did not back down and stared at him without blinking. After a long time, Hu Shoshin said coldly, What do you want? First, General Hu, you're brave and invincible. I'm no match for you. Even if you let me go, I'm afraid that you'll turn hostile and kill me. The Thunder Bow is unparalleled in the world. I have to be wary of your cold arrows. Xieji said calmly. So, I'm going to write a letter to inform my family members and let them know what happened to me. If General Hu goes back on your words and kills me, there will naturally be people from the same clan who will seek justice for me. Let me say something offensive. General Hu, you're not a match for us. Even if we come to seek justice, we most likely won't be able to defeat you. However, you can't protect your family for your entire life, right? He looked at Hu Shoshin's cold eyes and couldn't help but shudder. He explained, But please don't worry. We all know how powerful the heroes of Tianyuan are. This time I've lost. You're a generous man, and let me go. We can't thank you enough. Naturally, we don't dare to talk about revenge. Even we don't want to face the anger of the heroes of Tianyuan for no reason. Don't worry, Hu Shoshin said expressionlessly. Go on. Second, I've lost a lot this time. I have to make up for it. Otherwise, I'll be punished when I go back. Xieji said calmly. Today, I saw a little flower demon in the arena. Please help me check it out, General Hu. After all, humans and monsters can't coexist. It's a good thing for me to take this family member back. What do you think? Hu Shoshin was slightly stunned. Then, he revealed an unfathomable smile. Okay, a moment later, Hu Shoshin left the room, saying that he was going to buy ink, paper, and inkstone. But what Xieji didn't know was that there was a written letter lying in General Hu's sleeve. Today, Xieji's words had strengthened his determination to send this letter out. With Sun Lang's character, he might have already started to suspect me. If I leave him alone, who knows what kind of trouble he'll cause. So, I have to find something for him to do. Moreover, Chao Patao's sister mingling with a monster isn't a good thing after all. Also, the secret that Xieji knows is very important. I have to find someone I can trust to discuss it with. He pulled out the letter from his sleeve and came to the street. An ordinary-looking man walked over. When the two of them brushed past each other, the letter had already been handed over to him. Hu Shouxin said in a low voice, "Urgent, Songzhou, Shijiazhuang for General Zhao Yunlong." Chapter 138. At night, in the immortal fishing house, Zhuing helped Zhang Yinluo clean up the dishes and chopsticks and took them to the back hall to wash. Sun Lang and Dongfang Xian sat side by side expressionlessly, their expressions serious, as if they were facing a great enemy. I don't know why. Sun Lang blinked his eyes, his expression a little confused. I keep feeling that something will happen. Dongfang Xian nodded, as if he was facing a great enemy. I have a similar feeling. I keep feeling that something will happen. Mischief again. Zhang Yinluo wiped the table with a rag, and the two's eyes were attracted by the pair of beautiful hemispheres that were gently swaying due to gravity. The girl wiped for a moment and noticed the strangeness of the two. She was stunned for a moment, then reached out to cover her chest, and then blushed. "What are you looking at?" "Dongfang Xian, go help Zhuing wash the dishes. Do you remember what I said? Don't go out for the next few days." Dongfang Xian stuck out her tongue and ran to the back hall. Sun Lang turned his gaze to the side as if nothing had happened and whistled. Zhang Yinluo was both angry and amused. He threw the rag away and sat opposite Sun Lang. "Have you settled everything today?" Sun Lang hesitated for a moment, but still shook his head and said, "No. Things have become complicated, so complicated that I don't want to care about it anymore. Anyway, I've done my best." The girl was startled and asked, "What's wrong?" Looking at the other party's serious expression, Sun Lang thought for a moment. "Forget it. I'll tell you. Right now, the clues are cut off at Old Hu's place. That horned tiger should have been robbed by Old Hu halfway, but he lied to me. He clearly didn't kill that horned tiger, but he lied to me and killed it. This is what I care about the most. Why did Old Hu lie to me? Only you are allowed to lie, but others are not allowed to lie to you?" Zhang Yinluo cast a sidelong glance at him. "You've been making up nonsense and saying vulgar words to fool and tease me. I haven't settled the score with you yet." She pursed her lips and said, "Maybe it's because Hu Huizhou is kind-hearted and wants to let that horned tiger go. Knowing your temper, he thinks that if that horned tiger were to fall into your hands, you would definitely play with it. So he coaxed you by saying that he had already killed that horned tiger so that you would give up on this idea. You see, even Hu Huizhou knows what kind of person you are." Sun Lang rubbed his chin and muttered, "I always feel that Yinluo's IQ has risen recently. Although your guess seems very absurd, it is somewhat reasonable. After thinking about it, Old Hu has no reason to lie to me. Your guess may be the most reliable one. After all, the Horned Tiger clan participated in the War of the Heaven's Origin Sector, and all of them died in the battle. It's perfectly normal that he spared the last bloodline of the Horned Tiger clan for the sake of their friendship." "Oh, is that so?" Hearing Sun Lang's approval, Zhang Yinluo couldn't help but feel happy. Although it was a little rude to say that her IQ had risen, this seemed to be the first time this guy had sincerely praised her IQ. In the past, he had always praised her for her breasts, her strength as a wife, her understanding, her cuteness, and so on. Although these made her feel happy, for a girl, her inner self was indeed more important than her outer appearance. "Well, I'm serious. I'm not stupid at all." Thinking of this, Zhang Yinluo wanted to show off again. She thought about what Sun Lang had just said and knocked on the table. "Wait a minute. You should also be a hero of the Heaven's Origin Sector, right? Are you Hu Huizhou's comrade? Or someone who has a deep relationship with the heroes of the Heaven's Origin Sector? If Hu Huizhou only wanted to preserve the bloodline of the Horned Tiger, why didn't he tell you directly? Although your temperament is very bad, when it comes to serious matters, you can barely be considered reliable. You don't have to object to this kind of thing." Sun Lang curled his lips. That's hard to say. Do you know the Horned Tiger's entire body is a treasure, especially that horn. If it was made into a Mr. Horn, hearing about Mr. Horn and so on, Zhang Yinluo's face turned slightly red. But at the same time, the girl's face revealed a gentle smile, with an expression that said, "I've finally found a flaw." She laughed softly and said, "Then why did you go out this afternoon?" And why did you track down the whereabouts of the horned tiger all the way to Huhuazhou? With your mischievous temperament, you didn't even want to care about Qin Yu's matter back then. You were only willing to help after being threatened and tempted by me. Why did you run off to save a monster for no reason? It must be because you remembered the camaraderie during the War of the Heavens Origin Sector. You wanted to preserve the last bloodline of the horned tiger that you fought side by side with back then. Sun Lang smiled. In Luo, you're only half right. Don't be shy. What's wrong with saying your thoughts out loud? Zhang Yinluo saw his strange expression and thought that she had hit the nail on the head. It was not easy to gain the upper hand, which made her very happy. Her right hand supported her cheek, and her left hand waved to Sun Lang. Well, since this matter has been taken up by Huhuazhou, we don't have to care about it anymore. Do you want to talk to Daoist by Shui? Also, don't worry about it anymore. Everyone has their own secrets. No matter how good your relationship with Huhuazhou is, it's impossible to hide everything from him. Don't tell me you don't have any secrets to hide from him. Sun Lang's expression suddenly changed. The horned tiger, secret hidden from him. He seemed to have grasped the key to the problem. The truth was hidden in the fog, but did not seem to be far away. It was just that in the depths of his heart, he faintly resisted something, refused to associate it with some memories. This subconscious resistance prevented him from approaching the truth. He was stunned for a moment. Could it be? Then the ranger smiled and shook his head. TSK, the imperial court covered up the matter so tightly that even Hu Shoshin and the others could not find out. How could a demon know? At this time, the night was getting darker. In Hu Shoshin's secret stronghold, Xie and General Hu stood side by side, looking at the night sky. Hu Shoshin looked at the letter in his hand. At least you know what's good for you, and then I'll find someone to help you send it out. Xie laughed, took the letter, rolled it up, and stuffed it into a small bamboo tube. I don't need to trouble you with this matter. We demons have our own ways of transmitting information. He put 2 fingers on his lips and blew a melodious whistle. There was a faint cry in the sky. A moment later, a black shadow rushed down like lightning and landed on Xie's right arm. Hu Shoshin's expression changed. Sword-tailed eagle. Rely on this to transmit information? In this aspect, demons do have an innate advantage. Xie tied the bamboo tube to the right leg of the sword-tailed eagle. Then, with a whistling sound, the psychic bird soared into the sky, circled a few times, and disappeared into the vast night sky. It's extremely fast and ferocious. It's almost foolproof. He looked at Hu Shoshin and smiled. Except for the golden-winged eagle, it has no opponents in the air. Even if it can't beat it, it can run away. Even with your unparalleled archery skills, you have to concentrate fully to shoot it down. Hu Shoshin snorted expressionlessly. But what they did not know was that at the same time, in another part of Mingzhou City, a Taoist priest with the demeanor of an immortal was also delivering a letter. Looking at the golden shadow in the sky, Taoist priest by Shui nodded. I hope it can be delivered in time. Fortunately, the golden-winged eagle is extremely fast and ferocious. Except for the sword-tailed eagle, it has no opponents in the air. Even if it can't beat it, it can run away. Chapter 139. This morning, Taoist White Snow came to visit. Compared to the worried look he had yesterday, he seemed much more confident today. Hero-san, don't worry. Let me tell you, this is a sure thing. Taoist by Shui's saliva flew everywhere as he continued. After I finished my business yesterday, I wrote a letter and summoned the golden-winged rock to send it back to my sect to ask for help. In less than 2 days, the masters of Xingyang Palace will be here to capture the horned tiger. However, Sun Lang seemed to be uninterested. He nodded and said, That's great, that's great. Which Taoist by is coming? By Sinan? Who is that? To prevent any accidents from happening, Taoist by Shui tried his best not to look at the paladin's face. He said seriously, Hero-san, don't worry. I've already explained the pros and cons in the letter. My sect will definitely take it seriously. Moreover, this matter not only concerns the remaining descendants of the Horned Tiger clan, but also Xie Wei's life and future. Sun Lang gasped. Are you going to bring the horned tiger back and breed it with your female horned tiger? Then let them go to Germany to find love and salvation? Taoist by Shui said angrily. How is that possible? It's against human nature and an act of a beast. How can we allow such a thing to happen? I really want to let this person and that person hear this deafening voice. Yes, an act of a beast. Well said, well said. Sun Lang dug his ears. But you also said that this is probably the last 2 horned tigers left in the world. This clan is going to be extinct. Don't you plan to do anything? The Taoist by Shui was stunned for a moment. Then he laughed and said, I see. Benefactor, you don't know. This monster, especially this kind of legendary ancient beast, has powerful strength and domineering bloodline. It doesn't have to reproduce to give birth to descendants. There are other ways to ensure the continuation of the clan. As for the specific methods and process, all right, let's not talk about such an explosive topic. Sun Lang waved his hand and said, Then why are you so nervous? That horned tiger had already walked down the path of evil. He had allied himself with demons and become enemies with humans. It was unknown whether or not he had owed humans a debt of blood over the years. Even if they killed him, there was nothing much to say. Why drag his sister into this? What if his sister came and saw that her brother had become bad, and was unwilling to turn back? Then, if you guys accidentally killed that horned tiger, wouldn't she be even sadder? It's easy for her to fall into hatred. That's true, but the situation is still different. Taoist by Shui smiled bitterly. If it's possible, I don't want to involve Xie Wei in this matter. But she's about to reach adulthood. When the horned tiger clan reaches adulthood, they will resonate with the bloodline of their relatives. They can even see some afterimages and illusions. That's because of the spiritual resonance caused by the bloodline connection. This allows the family members who have just reached adulthood to see some memory fragments left behind by other family members. Taoist White Snow sighed. I've been thinking about it for the past 2 days and have roughly understood some things. If I'm not wrong, the horned tiger I just met saw the scene of his parents dying in the Great Desolate Mountain when he reached adulthood. That's why he became so extreme and intense. Therefore, if this horned tiger dies here, then Xie Wei will probably see the scene of his long-lost brother dying when he reaches adulthood. Before he finished speaking, he suddenly felt an extremely terrifying, murderous aura coming from the opposite side. It made him feel as if he had fallen into an ice cave. His hands and feet seemed to be frozen, and he couldn't move at all. Extremely terrifying, extremely dangerous, extremely terrifying. His brain desperately reminded him of the impending crisis, but his body was extremely stiff from fear. Then, a hand grabbed his collar and dragged him up. Hiro-san's familiar, yet incomparably strange voice rang out. It was like the mysterious ice under the 9 hells that could almost freeze life. What did you say? Are you serious? Taoist by Shui was both shocked and frightened by the sudden change in the warm, candid, and kind Hero Sunday. When he heard the terrifying voice, the murderous aura and indifference contained in the voice made him shudder. He raised his head, wanting to see if the person in front of him was Hiro-san or a demon in human skin. Then, ugh, it's real. When Taoist by Shui instinctively wanted to vomit, the hand that grabbed his collar suddenly loosened, allowing him to sit back down on the chair. The terrifying murderous aura had already disappeared. Hiro-san's voice contained a bit of sigh. You're ruining the atmosphere. I just wanted to show off, and you played this trick on me. Taoist by Shui still hadn't recovered from his panic. He looked at Sun Lang, and a trace of fear flashed in his eyes. You, how many people have you killed? Sun Lang said indifferently, 162,378. His tone was calm, and his tone was calm. He calmly reported such a large and accurate number, which made Taoist by Shui slightly stunned. His tone was not showing off, nor was it a threat. It was just a statement of fact. Perhaps it was an illusion, but Taoist by Shui could see a hint of sadness in his eyes, which made him unable to let go of. For some reason, Taoist by Shui didn't care whether this exaggerated number was real or not. Instead, he cared about something else. What's going on? You don't look like an evil person. Could it be that you were coerced by evil people, or, no matter what the reason is, I killed these people with my own hands? These 162,378 lives are an indelible part of my past life. I don't intend to give them up, nor do I intend to forget them. I also don't intend to find a reason to convince myself to let go of them. The living should remember the dead. As the price of freedom and new life, I remember each and every one of them. Sun Lang's tone was still calm and indifferent. But this is not something you should be concerned about, Taoist by Shui. Now, let's get to the point. I need your help. We don't have time to wait for people from your sect. We have to go now. We have to find that horned tiger. He's now in the hands of Hu Shouxin. It seems that Hu Shouxin wants to get some information from him. I have to stop all this from happening, or else. The ranger's voice suddenly turned cold. Many people will die. Taoist by Shui had just recovered from the shock. He was full of questions and fear. He wanted to ask something, but suddenly there were footsteps outside. Zhang Yinluo's voice was heard. What's going on? I think I heard a noise just now. The Taoist by Shui subconsciously wanted to stop him, because Sun Lang in this state made him feel fear, surprise, and fear. He was not sure what Zhang Yinluo would do if he saw Sun Lang in this state, or what Sun Lang would do. However, the moment he heard Zhang Yinluo's voice, the coldness in Sun Lang's eyes dissipated like snow melting under the scorching sun. The slowly rising murderous aura disappeared, and the frighteningly calm expression turned into a sly smile that he was familiar with. When Zhang Yinluo pushed the door open and entered, Sun Lang had already put his arm around Taoist by Shui's shoulder in a very friendly manner. The paladin waved his hand at the girl. We just thought of an awesome game. We plan to go on the streets now and take the 8 trigrams disc handed down by the Taoist ancestors. We'll look for traces of monsters and fight them. Then, we'll capture them. This game is the earliest prototype of an AR game in human history. It's a form of entertainment for exorcists and monks. The name of this game is Liaozhai Go. Zhang Yinluo did not seem to notice anything at all. When he heard Sun Lang's strange, crazy words, he just rolled his eyes. You're crazy again. Get out of here. Remember to come back for lunch. Chapter 140. Looking at Sun Lang's sudden change of style and Zhang Yinluo's helpless face, Taoist by Shui blinked his eyes. He suddenly had the feeling that even an idiot could see that there was something going on between them. But before he could say anything, Sun Lang grabbed his shoulder and dragged him out with a smile, leaving only Zhang Yinluo behind, who shouted, Don't bully Taoist by Shui too much. So you also know that I'm being bullied. Taoist by Shui silently shed 2 lines of tears in his heart. After being dragged to the street, Sun Lang let go of his hand and said with a smile, Let's go. Taoist by Shui rubbed his shoulder and grimaced. He couldn't help but ask, Miss Zhang doesn't know? Sun Lang said lightly, If she asks, I'll tell her. If she doesn't, I won't tell her. Fortunately, she's a good girl who knows when to play dumb and when not to ask, so she doesn't have to bear this burden. The corner of the Taoist's eyes twitched. Then why do I have to bear this burden? The paladin said leisurely, because human beings are social animals. When some things are accumulated in the heart, they will have the desire to talk. I can't confide in my former comrades, and I can't confide in the girls around me. Therefore, I found someone who doesn't have much to do with me, and who wouldn't have any psychological burden even if I killed him. Wouldn't that save time and effort? The Taoist jumped and said, It's not beautiful at all. Why did I encounter such a thing when I came to Mingzhou City? First, I found a monster in the fishing immortal house. Then I met the unscrupulous merchant who sold stinky tofu, and I met a horned tiger. Finally, I found that the kind person who helped me with a Jekyll face from the beginning to the end was the most dangerous guy. I feel bitter in my heart. Sun Lang squinted and said, Hey, you have to follow the basic rules when you complain. What do you mean by I'm the most dangerous guy? Come on, let me explain it to you. First of all, Zhu Ying, a chrysanthemum spirit, seems harmless, but in fact, he has terrible potential. Don't believe me? There were probably two evolutionary routes for Zhuing. When he reached adulthood, he might acquire the ability in both directions. First, she will have the ability to freely control the opening of the chrysanthemum. Sun Lang said seriously. In other words, if she wants your chrysanthemum to open, your chrysanthemum will open. If she wants your chrysanthemum to close, your chrysanthemum will close. Do you understand? He's the enemy and nemesis of all living things. The second direction of evolution is the purple mother thread. In short, every chrysanthemum will become a portal, allowing her to go out freely. That is to say, think about it. Sun Lang's tone became gloomy and terrifying. When you were fighting with Zhuing, you suddenly felt a chill in your lower body. You turned your head and saw a flower demon coming out of your chrysanthemum and looking at you with a smile. I keep feeling that the chrysanthemum you speak of and the chrysanthemum I know are two different things. It's just a trifle. Don't worry about it. Sun Lang shook his finger. Then let's talk about Zhang Jianyuan. Don't underestimate Zhang Jianyuan. Although he is now a stinky tofu seller and can barely be regarded as the most elementary capitalist, don't underestimate capitalists. If you don't pay attention, one day he will grow into a behemoth that will shock you and do things that will shock you, such as, well, he thought for a moment and nodded. For example, spend money and use your connections to directly ask the Office of Transmission to delete the article criticizing him in the court bulletin and make the Hamlin Academy suffer in silence. Taoist by Shui gasped. How is that possible? Sun Lang rolled his eyes. Don't be surprised. Why is it impossible? He said. Then let's talk about the horned tiger. The horned tiger holds secrets it shouldn't, right? Taoist White Snow said softly. Just now, I mentioned the racial talent of the horned tiger and said that the horned tiger might have seen the scene where its parents were killed in battle, which caused you to lose your composure and want to kill. Is that the key to the problem? The battle on the Great Desolate Mountain is a mystery that the Imperium cannot solve. Could it be that the horned tiger saw something that it shouldn't have seen through the perspective of its parents' death? He seemed to have thought of something and glanced at Sun Lang in horror. Could it be that don't try to figure out who Hero Sun is. Don't try to figure out who Hero Sun is. The ranger froze for a moment, then said seriously, since you asked so sincerely, then I'll be merciful and tell you, I am, shut up. I'm not listening. I'm not listening. I'm not listening. I'm not listening. Why are you trying to act cute? Sun Lang shook his head and smiled. Well, you just need to know that this horned tiger may be hiding a big secret in his heart, and I have to stop him from saying it. Time is of the essence, and I need your help. We'd better find who's Shoshin and that horned tiger within a day, before the situation becomes irreversible. One day, Taoist White Snow hesitated. Is there still time? Saying the secret may only take a few breaths. There's still time. I've thought it through. Sun Lang snorted. That secret is so important. If the horned tiger proposed to exchange for his life, then what he should do is to prevent Hu Shoshin from killing him afterwards. Then the wisest choice is to force Hu Shoshin to compromise before revealing the secret, and allow him to write a letter or something to inform the other demon clans about what happened here, as insurance for himself. It will take some time to send a letter and reply to a letter. Before confirming that everything is foolproof, the horned tiger will not speak easily, because that secret is his last bargaining chip to survive. And what we have to do is to find the horned tiger within a day, and then kill him. Taoist White Snow's expression became serious. Hero Sun, if your purpose is this, then forgive me for not being able to accept it. In order to protect humans from being harmed by demons, I can decisively kill demons. But if the situation is not so serious, I will never kill indiscriminately. Whether it is for Xia Wei or for itself, I will bring it back to the sect, dissolve its hatred, dissolve its persistence. Sun Lang pondered for a moment. The reason why a secret is because if it is exposed in public, It will have consequences that the person involved will not be able to bear. This is also the reason why I'm so anxious. If my guess is right, if that horned tiger really knows the secret, then I will definitely not allow him to say a single word because it will hurt some of the people I care about. Taoist white snow, this is the only thing I will not compromise on. Don't make it difficult for me, otherwise. He smiled faintly and patted Taoist white snow's shoulder. I don't need to say more. Taoist white snow gritted his teeth. Can you erase his memory? Then I will bring him back to the sect and watch over him strictly. I will not allow him to have the slightest contact with outsiders. Sun Lang nodded happily. If that's the case, then that's fine. Anyway, when I first heard that the demon was a horned tiger, I also had the thought of sparing his life. Unless it is a last resort, I am too lazy to kill him. He agreed so readily that it was far beyond the Taoist white snow's expectations. He was a little surprised. Are you serious? Nonsense. Sun Lang rolled his eyes. I am an otherworldly expert, so I disdain to lie to you. Bah! I have never seen an otherworldly expert like you. Let's go, we may need a few helpers. Sun Lang walked in front with a smile on his face. Taoist white snow, I didn't lie to you. The reason why I promised you not to kill the horned tiger may be because, perhaps it is because deep in my heart, perhaps I am longing for it to tell this secret. After all, I have been carrying alone for so long. Even I'm a little tired. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.